Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto stopped hiding his skills in Chunin exams? Subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. The forest seemed to breathe around them, a living, hungry thing. Massive trees stretched skyward, their canopies blocking all but the most determined shafts of sunlight that cut through like scattered blades. Team 7 moved in tight formation through the undergrowth, the forest of death living up to its name with every shadow that shifted, every distant screech that pierced the heavy air. This place gives me the creeps, Sakura muttered, jade eyes darting to track movement in her peripheral vision. Her pink hair was dulled with dirt and sweat, the pristine appearance she typically maintained already sacrificed to survival. Sasuke led their formation, his Sharingan activated in brief pulses to conserve chakra. Stay focused. We need an Earth Scroll, and we're not the only ones hunting. Yeah, we get it, Naruto replied, his voice carrying its familiar brash tone. But I'm telling you, we should set up traps instead of just wandering around waiting to get jumped. Sasuke shot him an irritated glance. Your traps wouldn't catch a civilian, let alone a trained genin. Naruto's face flushed with manufactured anger, his hand reaching back to scratch his neck, a gesture that concealed the momentary tightening of his jaw. If you only knew, he thought, maintaining the facade that had become second nature. They pushed deeper into the forest, the air growing thicker, more oppressive. Birdsong had ceased entirely, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the occasional snap of something moving through the underbrush. Naruto's senses, far more acute than he let on, picked up a disturbance in the air currents above them. Move! The warning erupted from Sasuke's throat as a massive gust of wind exploded through the clearing. Trees bent and cracked under the assault, and Team 7 scattered. Naruto caught a glimpse of Sakura being thrown against a thick trunk before his own body was sent tumbling through fern and fungus. When the chaos settled, Naruto pulled himself up, senses on high alert. 20 meters away stood a lone grass ninja, tall and thin with long dark hair that hung like a curtain across a face fixed in an unnatural smile. My, what delightful prey, the stranger purred, voice slithering through the forest like something venomous. I wonder which of you will provide the most entertainment. Sasuke and Sakura regrouped beside Naruto, forming a defensive triangle. Something about this ninja made Naruto's skin crawl in a way that transcended normal combat anxiety. What do you want? Sasuke demanded, kunai raised. The stranger's smile widened impossibly. Want? I want to see what the last Uchiha is capable of course. What happened next blurred even to Naruto's trained eye. The grass ninja seemed to liquefy, body contorting as it launched forward with inhuman speed. Sasuke barely managed to dodge the first strike, but the second caught him across the shoulder, spinning him into a defensive roll. Sakura moved to support, flinging shuriken that the enemy deflected with a casual flick of the wrist. The air around them thickened with killing intent so dense it felt like drowning. Is this truly all? How disappointing. The ninja's tongue, impossibly long, flicked out to taste the air. Sasuke recovered, hands flashing through signs. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. A volley of small fireballs erupted from his lips, forcing their attacker to leap sideways. But the enemy had anticipated this. In midair, the grass ninja twisted, hands forming seals at a blinding pace. Wind style, Vacuum bullets. Concentrated air projectiles sliced through Sasuke's flames and struck him directly in the chest. He flew backward, body slamming into an ancient tree with a sickening crack. Blood sprayed from his mouth as he collapsed to the ground. Sasuke! Sakura's scream tore through the forest as she rushed to his side. The grass ninja chuckled, advancing on them with predatory grace. And then there were two. Naruto stood frozen, not from fear, but from calculation. His mind raced through scenarios, evaluating, discarding, planning. This wasn't an ordinary genin, not even close. The chakra signature pulsed with a power that dwarfed any jonin he'd encountered. I can't keep pretending. Not now. Not when they're going to die. As the enemy closed in on his teammates, Naruto felt something inside him shift. A door long kept shut began to creak open. A series of memories flashed through his mind, moonlight streaming through the window of his small apartment, illuminating forbidden scrolls spread across his floor, his fingers tracing complex ceiling arrays while the village slept. Dawn breaking over a secluded clearing miles from Konoha, his body moving through katas that would have shocked his academy teachers, sweat glistening on his brow as he perfected techniques glimpsed from Anbu training grounds. The dusty back room of an abandoned library, meticulously copying texts on chakra theory that he'd snuck past dozing guards, memorizing principles that genin weren't supposed to understand for years. A hollow tree where he'd hidden his mother's scrolls, salvaged from ruins before they could be catalogued. Treasures of the Uzumaki legacy that nobody thought to keep from him because nobody believed he could understand them. The faces of villagers sneering when he'd once, years ago, demonstrated unusual skill in a public training ground. The whispers. The increased hostility. The rocks thrown through his window the following night. Naruto exhaled, decision made. Snake face. He shouted, voice dropping an octave from its usual grating pitch. You're overlooking the most interesting prey. The grass ninja paused, head tilting at an unnatural angle. The Kyuubi brat wishes to play? How amusing. Sakura, cradling Sasuke's head, looked up with confusion. Naruto, run! This isn't someone you can fight with shadow clones and luck. She's right, the enemy chuckled. Though I commend your bravery, it won't. The sentence died as Naruto vanished in a burst of speed that left an afterimage. The grass ninja's eyes widened a fraction before Naruto reappeared behind them, palm glowing with a complex seal matrix. 5-point chakra disruption seal, Naruto stated calmly, driving his palm between the enemy's shoulder blades. The seal blazed with blue light that spiderwebbed across the grass ninja's body. Their chakra flows stuttered visibly, causing them to stagger forward with an expression of genuine surprise. Impossible, they hissed. A genin couldn't possibly. No Uzumaki sealing techniques. Naruto finished, eyes cold and focused. You're right. A genin couldn't. For the first time, Sakura saw something in Naruto's posture that sent chills down her spine. A fluid grace that had never been there before, hands steady and movements precise. Gone was the clumsy, loud-mouthed boy. In his place stood someone who moved like a seasoned shinobi. The grass ninja recovered quickly, face contorting with rage. Interesting. Let's see what else you're hiding. The battle erupted in earnest. The enemy unleashed a barrage of snakes that shot from their sleeves, but Naruto's hands blurred through unfamiliar signs. Wind style, vacuum sphere. A compressed ball of wind chakra shot from Naruto's mouth, shredding the snakes midair and continuing toward the enemy, who barely avoided the cutting edge of the technique. Sakura watched, mouth agape, as Naruto, dead last, hyperactive, knucklehead Naruto, executed a B-rank wind jutsu with perfect control. What is happening? She whispered, looking down at the unconscious Sasuke. Are you seeing this? The grass ninja launched a counterattack, sending a wave of earth spikes erupting from the ground. Naruto flipped backward, landing on a tree trunk and sticking there with perfect chakra control. Impressive for a child, the enemy called out, voice betraying a hint of genuine interest. But party tricks won't save you from Orochimaru. The disguise melted away, revealing pale skin and serpentine eyes. Sakura gasped in recognition of the name, one of the legendary sanin, an S-class criminal. Naruto's eyes narrowed. So that's who we're dealing with. No wonder this feels wrong. He reached into his pouch, withdrawing not a kunai but a small scroll. You know, Naruto said conversationally as he unrolled the scroll with a practiced flick. I always wondered what would happen if I met someone worth going all out against. His finger traced a complex pattern over the scroll's surface, activating sequences of characters that began to glow. Guess today's the day I find out. Orochimaru's eyes widened with genuine interest. Fascinating. The Kyuubi container with Uzumaki sealing knowledge. You've been playing a very convincing fool, haven't you? You have no idea, Naruto replied, completing the sequence. Sealing art, phantom chain binding. The ground beneath Orochimaru erupted with glowing blue chains that shot upward, wrapping around his limbs with surprising strength. For a moment, genuine shock registered on the sanin's face before he substituted with a mud clone. Those chains, Orochimaru hissed from a branch above. Kushina's technique. Naruto didn't respond, already moving through the next sequence. Chakra began to swirl around him, tinted with the faintest hint of red. The forest floor cracked beneath his feet as his chakra pressure increased. Naruto? Sakura called, voice small and uncertain. What's happening to you? Later, Sakura, he replied without looking back. Get Sasuke to safety. This is about to get messy. Orochimaru descended from the trees, hands forming seals at blinding speed. Earth-style dark swamp. The ground beneath Naruto liquefied, but he was already moving, hands completing a complex seal sequence of his own. Sealing art, repulsion barrier. A translucent dome of chakra formed around Team 7, causing the jutsu to rebound. Orochimaru narrowly avoided being caught in his own technique, landing with cat-like grace on a nearby branch. Most impressive, the sanin purred. Such potential. Perhaps I've been focusing on the wrong member of Team 7. Naruto reached into his jacket and withdrew a handful of custom-made tags. You know what your problem is, Orochimaru? You talk too much. He flung the tags with precision, each one landing at strategic points around the clearing. Before Orochimaru could react, Naruto formed a single hand sign. Seal. The tags activated simultaneously, forming a complex geometric pattern of chakra that connected each point. Orochimaru found himself trapped within a pentagonal barrier. A space-time containment seal? Orochimaru's voice carried genuine surprise. Impossible for a genin. Yeah, we covered that already. Naruto cut him off, hands forming the final sequence. The faint red tinge to his chakra intensified, his eyes flashing crimson for just a moment before returning to blue. Sealing art. 5 elements imprisonment. The barrier contracted, chakra densifying into visible restraints that wrapped around Orochimaru's true body, forcing him out of a half-completed substitution. For a brief moment, the sanin was truly caught, eyes widening in what might have been respect. Then, with a terrible ripping sound, Orochimaru's body split open from within, a new form emerging like a snake shedding its skin. The barrier shattered, seal tags burning to ash. Naruto staggered back, chakra reserves depleting rapidly. The red tinge faded entirely, leaving him gasping for breath. Orochimaru, looking somewhat disheveled but largely unharmed, straightened his clothing with an air of amused interest. How unexpected. I came for the Sharingan but find an uzumaki with precocious talent. His tongue flicked out to lick his lips. Another time, perhaps. I've seen what I needed to see. With that, his body seemed to liquefy, sinking into the forest floor before Naruto could mount another attack. Silence fell over the clearing. Naruto stood motionless for several seconds, ensuring the threat had truly departed before allowing his shoulders to slump. The adrenaline ebbed, leaving him lightheaded. He turned to find Sakura staring at him with an expression caught between awe and betrayal. "Who?" she whispered. "Who are you?" Naruto's face, usually split by a too-wide grin, remained serious. "I'm still me, Sakura. Just more than I let on. But how? When?" Her eyes darted between him and the unconscious Sasuke. "All this time, you've been pretending to be a talentless idiot?" Naruto finished for her. He sighed, suddenly looking tired beyond his years. "Yeah. Had my reasons." Before she could press further, a groan from Sasuke drew their attention. The Uchiha stirred, hand reaching for his injured shoulder. "What happened?" he mumbled, eyes unfocused. "The grass ninja, gone," Naruto said shortly, moving to help him sit up. "We need to move." That was Orochimaru, one of the sanin. He might come back. Sasuke's eyes widened, then narrowed suspiciously. "How did we survive an encounter with a sanin?" Naruto and Sakura exchanged glances. "Naruto," Sakura struggled to find words. "I got lucky," Naruto interrupted, the familiar sheepish grin sliding back into place like a mask. "Set off some explosive tags that startled him, then grabbed you guys and ran. He must not have thought we were worth the trouble." Sasuke looked unconvinced, but his injuries prevented further questioning. "We still need an earth scroll." Actually, Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out an earth scroll. "I grabbed this from his pouch during the confusion." Sasuke stared at the scroll, then at Naruto, eyes narrowing in calculation. "That's convenient. Hey, even a stopped clock is right twice a day, right?" Naruto laughed, though the sound lacked its usual boisterousness. Sakura opened her mouth as if to contradict the story, then closed it again, watching Naruto with new eyes. "Let's get to the tower," Naruto continued, helping Sasuke to his feet. "I know a route that should avoid most of the other teams." Sasuke flinched away from the assistants, standing on his own despite the obvious pain. "And when did you become an expert on forest navigation?" Naruto's expression flickered momentarily before the mask slid back into place. "I just look at the map they showed us before the exam. Geez. Come on, the tower's this way." As they moved through the forest, Naruto in the lead for once, Sasuke and Sakura exchanged significant glances. Something had changed, something fundamental about their team dynamics that neither could quite articulate. 3 days later, they arrived at the central tower, among the first teams to complete the challenge. As they stepped through the doors, a sense of accomplishment mingled with confusion and unspoken questions. Hidden in the trees outside, a masked Anbu crouched on a branch, fingers pressed to an earpiece. "Lord Hokage, this is Falcon. I'm reporting unusual chakra signatures from the Forest of Death 3 days ago. Analysis confirms traces of both Kyubi chakra and the Anbu hesitated, characteristics consistent with uzumaki sealing techniques. Advanced ones." In his office, the third Hokage set down his pipe, face grave in the lamplight. "Confirmed sighting of Orochimaru in the same area?" "Yes, sir." "Engaged briefly with Team 7 before retreating." A long silence stretched across the communication. continue monitoring the situation, the Hokage finally responded. And bring me the sealed records from the night of the Mizuki incident. I believe our young Naruto may have acquired more than just the shadow clone jutsu from that scroll. Understood, sir. As the connection closed, Hiruzen Sarutobi gazed out at the village, the weight of past decisions heavy on his shoulders. Minato, he murmured to the empty room, your son may be more like you than any of us realized. The night deepened around the tower, wrapping Team 7 in temporary safety while the wheels of greater events began to turn. The central tower of the Forest of Death loomed like a sentinel against the dawn sky, its stone facade already warm with morning sunlight. Inside, the vast circular chamber echoed with the footsteps of the few teams who had completed the second exam days ahead of schedule. Team 7 had claimed a small alcove on the eastern side, their presence a silent declaration of unexpected success. Sasuke sat with his back against the cool stone wall, one hand absently massaging his shoulder where Orochimaru's attack had left more than just physical damage. The curse mark pulsed beneath his fingertips, a venomous whisper promising power at a price he wasn't sure he could afford. But that wasn't what kept his obsidian gaze fixed on the blonde-haired boy sitting cross-legged by the window. Naruto hadn't spoken much since their arrival. He'd maintained the facade of his usual boisterous self when interacting with the proctors, but in private moments, he'd lapsed into a contemplative silence that felt more authentic than any behavior Sasuke had witnessed in their months as teammates. Occasionally, Naruto's fingers would trace invisible patterns on the stone floor, seal formulas, Sasuke now realized, though he never recognized them as such before. You going to stare all day, or actually say something? Naruto asked without turning, his voice carrying none of its usual abrasive edge. Sasuke's jaw tightened. You owe us an explanation, do I? Naruto finally turned, blue eyes clear and unguarded in a way Sasuke had never seen. Or did I just save our lives? The air between them crackled with unspoken accusations and questions. Sasuke opened his mouth to retort when Sakura emerged from one of the side passages, medical supplies clutched in her hands. She paused, feeling the tension, her gaze darting between her teammates. I found some ointment for your shoulder, she offered, crossing the space with careful steps. The silence stretched as she knelt beside Sasuke, her movements mechanical as she applied the medicine. The proctor said 2 more teams arrived this morning. We're still among the first. Great, Sasuke muttered, wincing as her fingers brushed against the curse mark. More time trapped in this tower with nothing but questions. Sakura's hands stilled. You know, I've been thinking about that, she said, her voice uncharacteristically measured. About what happened in the forest. Her eyes lifted to Naruto, who met her gaze without flinching. About who we thought we knew. Naruto's expression softened. Sakura, no, let me finish. She capped the ointment with deliberate precision. All this time, I thought I understood everything. The team dynamics, our strengths, our weaknesses. I had it all categorized so neatly. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Top rookie, Kunoichi with perfect chakra control, and dead last loudmouth. Her eyes narrowed. But that was never true, was it? The sunlight streaming through the high windows caught dust motes dancing in the air between them, illuminating 3 genin at the precipice of a fundamental shift. Not entirely, Naruto admitted, shoulders slumping slightly. But it wasn't all a lie either. Then what was real? Sasuke demanded, voice razor-sharp. The idiot who couldn't throw a shuriken straight? Or the shinobi who held off a sanin with sealing techniques I've never even seen before? Naruto's eyes flashed, a glimpse of the steel beneath the sunshine. Both. Neither. He ran a hand through his unruly blonde hair. Look, it's complicated. Then uncomplicated, Sakura pressed, moving to sit directly across from him, her green eyes intense. We deserve that much. Naruto studied his teammates' faces, Sasuke's tightly controlled fury, Sakura's wounded confusion, and sighed. Fine. But not here. He glanced meaningfully toward the ceiling where, though invisible, Umbu guards likely monitored the proceedings. Tonight, when it's quieter. Before either could respond, the tower's main doors groaned open, drawing their attention. The Sand siblings strode into the chamber, not a scratch or smudge marring their appearances. Gaara led the trio, his pale green eyes immediately scanning the room until they locked onto Naruto with unsettling intensity. The redhead froze mid-step, nostrils flaring as if catching a scent. His siblings nearly collided with him, exchanging nervous glances at his sudden stillness. Gaara? Temari questioned softly, placing a hand near, but not touching, her brother's shoulder. What is it? Him, Gaara whispered, voice like sand over stone. Mother wants his blood. Across the chamber, Naruto rose to his feet in one fluid motion, body angling instinctively to place himself between the sand ninja and his teammates. The movement wasn't lost on Sasuke, who noted with irritation how his body had already accepted Naruto as the team's protector, a role reversal that stung his pride. The two Jinchuriki locked eyes across the space, an unspoken recognition passing between them that transcended ordinary awareness. Naruto gave a slight nod, either challenging nor submissive, and Gaara's lips curved in what might have been the ghost of a smile or a snarl. Later, Kankuro murmured, tugging gently at his brother's sleeve. "Remember the plan." The moment shattered. Gaara allowed himself to be led away, though his gaze lingered on Naruto until they disappeared down a corridor. "What the hell was that about?" Sasuke demanded, rising to stand beside Naruto. "That," Naruto replied quietly, "is someone like me." Before Sasuke could press further, a familiar presence entered the chamber, sending a ripple of recognition through Team 7. Kakashi Hatake sauntered in with his typical air of affected laziness, orange book in hand, visible eye curved in its usual smile. "My cute little genin," he greeted, snapping the book closed. "Fancy meeting you here, and so early too. I'm impressed." His tone was light, but Naruto caught the subtle tension in his stance, the barely perceptible flick of his eye toward the curse mark on Sasuke's neck, the evaluating sweep across Naruto's own form. He knows something happened, Naruto realized. "But how much, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura exclaimed, relief evident in her voice. "What are you doing here?" "The exam isn't over yet, Ma, just checking on my students. Jonin-sensei are allowed to visit once their teams reach the tower." His eye crinkled further. "I thought I might have to wait the full 5 days. But here you are, defying expectations as usual." His gaze lingered on Naruto, who met it steadily, dropping the pretense of his usual exuberance. Something passed between them, acknowledgement, perhaps, or challenge. "Naruto," Kakashi said casually, "a word?" He tilted his head toward one of the side corridors. Sasuke stepped forward. "Whatever you need to say, is for Naruto alone," Kakashi finished, his tone brooking no argument despite its lightness. "Jonin privilege. You two rest up, you've earned it." Naruto hesitated, then nodded. "It's fine, guys. I'll be back." Kakashi led him through a labyrinth of corridors, their footsteps echoing against stone walls ancient enough to have witnessed generations of shinobi tests and trials. Neither spoke until they reached a small meditation room, bare except for a few cushions and the scent of sandalwood incense burned long ago. Kakashi activated a privacy seal on the door frame with practiced ease, then turned to face his student, all pretense of casualness evaporating. "You want to tell me what really happened in that forest?" he asked, voice low and serious. Naruto considered his options, weighing truths and half-truths against the reality of who stood before him, not just his sensei, but his father's student, his mother's protector. "We encountered Orochimaru," he stated plainly. "He was after Sasuke, managed to place some kind of cursed seal on him, and?" Kakashi prompted, leaning against the wall. "And I may have shown skills that don't align with my academy records." A short, sharp laugh escaped Kakashi. "That's putting it mildly. The Umbu report mentioned uzumaki sealing techniques. Complex ones." His visible eye narrowed, "Techniques that genin shouldn't know." Naruto's chin lifted slightly. "Maybe most genin, Naruto." Kakashi's voice softened unexpectedly. "This isn't an interrogation. But I need to know what I'm dealing with." "How long?" The simple question cut to the heart of it. Naruto exhaled slowly, tension draining from his shoulders. "Since I was 8, he admitted. After the 3rd assassination attempt." Kakashi flinched visibly, a reaction Naruto filed away with interest. "The villagers made it clear very early that me being weak was safer for everyone involved," Naruto continued, bitterness edging his tone. "The stronger I appeared, the harder they pushed back. So I adapted, by pretending to be the dead last." Naruto shrugged. "By becoming what they needed me to be. The scapegoat. The clown. The failure they could feel superior to." His blue eyes hardened. "While I trained in secret." "And Mizuki?" Kakashi asked, connecting dots that had bothered him for months. A ghost of Naruto's fox-like grin flashed across his face. "Let's just say when he told me to steal the Forbidden Scroll, he had no idea I'd already read parts of it months before." Kakashi's eye widened fractionally. "You broke into the Hokage Tower?" "Several times," Naruto admitted without remorse. "Shadow clone diversions work wonders, and no one expects the idiot to be capable of complex infiltration." A silence stretched between them as Kakashi processed this revelation, reassessing countless interactions and incidents through this new lens. "The sealing techniques," he finally said. "Where did you learn those?" Something in Naruto's expression closed off. Places. Naruto, I found things, okay? Naruto cut him off, voice tight. Things that should have been given to me but weren't. My heritage. My birthright. His hands clenched at his sides. Did you know there was an uzumaki compound in Konoha? Mostly destroyed now, but there are still sealed rooms underground that survived. Rooms full of scrolls and histories that nobody bothered to secure because nobody thought I'd ever be smart enough to find them or understand them. Kakashi had gone very still. Naruto, those seals were my mother's, Naruto finished defiantly. I recognized her handwriting from the few samples I managed to find. The chakra chains, the barrier techniques. They're Uzumaki clan techniques that I had every right to learn. The air between them vibrated with unspoken history and secrets on the verge of unraveling. Kakashi looked suddenly tired, the weight of past decisions heavy in the slump of his shoulders. The Hokage needs to know about this, he finally said. He already suspects, Naruto countered. Why do you think he assigned you as my Jonin sensei? To keep the Kyuubi container under surveillance while training the last Uchiha. Kakashi didn't deny it, which told Naruto everything he needed to know. What happens now? Naruto asked, cutting to the heart of matters. Are you going to report that I'm dangerous? Unstable? A potential threat? No, Kakashi said, surprising both of them with the firmness of his response. I'm going to report that my student showed extraordinary skill in protecting his team from an S-class missing nin. And then I'm going to start actually teaching you properly. Something flickered in Naruto's eyes, hope quickly suppressed. You think they'll let you? I think, Kakashi said carefully, that hiding your abilities has only benefited those who wanted to keep you weak and controllable. If Orochimaru is making moves, if the Akatsuki are as active as intelligence suggests, then Konoha needs every advantage. He straightened from the wall, hands sliding into his pockets. And a Jinchuriki with Uzumaki sealing knowledge is one hell of an advantage. Naruto studied his sensei's face, searching for deception and finding none. So just like that, you're okay with who I actually am? Kakashi's eye curved in a genuine smile. Naruto, I knew both your parents. Trust me when I say that you being extraordinary is the least surprising revelation of the day. The words hung in the air between them, an offering and acknowledgement that Naruto had craved for longer than he cared to admit. He nodded once, sharply, afraid to speak past the sudden tightness in his throat. Kakashi deactivated the privacy seal. Go get some rest. The preliminaries will start sooner than you think. Miles away, in the Hokage Tower, the third Hokage stood by his window, pipes sending lazy curls of smoke toward the ceiling as he considered the scrolls spread across his desk. Across from him, lounging with deliberate casualness, sat a large man with wild white hair and facial markings. You're sure? Jiraiya asked, voice unusually serious. Anbu confirmed it, Hiruzen replied, tapping ash from his pipe. Uzumaki sealing techniques. Advanced ones, and a momentary flare of the Nine-Tails chakra, but controlled, directed. Jiraiya whistled low. The kid's been busy. His expression hardened. And Orochimaru? Confirmed. He marked Sasuke Uchiha with the Heaven Curse seal, but retreated after engaging with Naruto. The Hokage's aged fingers traced the report. What interests me is why he retreated. Orochimaru isn't one to abandon his targets without good reason. Unless he found something more interesting, Jiraiya mused, leaning forward. A Jinchuriki showing aptitude for sealing arts would certainly catch his attention. The Hokage sighed heavily, suddenly looking every one of his years. We've made mistakes with the boy, old friend. Serious ones. You don't know the half of it, Jiraiya grunted. If he's found Kushina sealing scrolls, he left the implications hanging. Then he may have discovered the truth about his parentage, Hiruzen finished. Which complicates matters considerably. Jiraiya rose, moving to stand beside his teacher at the window. Below, Konoha bustled with afternoon activity, civilians and shinobi going about their lives, unaware of the currents shifting beneath the surface of their peaceful existence. The council will argue he's a security risk, Jiraiya stated matter-of-factly. Danzo especially won't like a Jinchuriki with unknown capabilities outside his control. The council doesn't need to know everything, Hiruzen replied, steel entering his voice. Not yet, Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. And if the boy starts displaying abilities that can't be explained away? Then Namikaze's resemblance is already strong enough to raise questions. Then perhaps, the Hokage said slowly, it's time to revisit old decisions. Minato wanted his son to be seen as a hero, not hidden away in shame. Better late than never, Jiraiya muttered, though without real heat. He straightened, rolling his shoulders. I should head to the tower. I want to see this kid's skills for myself. Discreetly, Hiruzen cautioned. We need to understand the full situation before making any moves. Discreet is my middle name, Jiraiya grinned, heading for the door. It most certainly is not, the Hokage called after him, a rare smile crinkling his weathered face. Evening descended on the tower, the great hall now populated with more teams who had struggled through the forest to arrive within the deadline. The air hummed with low conversations, tension, and the occasional burst of boisterous relief from those who had made it. Team 7 had retreated to their assigned quarters, a small room with 3 simple beds that offered the first real privacy since the exam began. Sakura sat cross-legged on her mattress, hair still damp from the tower's communal showers. Sasuke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Naruto, who stood by the room's small window, silhouetted against the deepening dusk. You promised us answers, Sasuke reminded him, cutting through the silence. Naruto turned, face half in shadow, half illuminated by the last rays of sunlight. For a moment, either of his teammates recognized him. This stranger with confident posture, and evaluating gaze that seemed to see through their defenses. I did, he agreed, voice pitched lower than his usual clamor. With deliberate movements, he formed hand signs, whispering, silencing barrier, minor. A shimmer rippled across the walls, ceiling, and floor, subtle enough that Sakura might have missed it if she hadn't been watching intently. Another technique that dead lasts aren't supposed to know? Sasuke asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. One of many, Naruto confirmed without apology. He moved to sit on his bed, facing them both. So, where do you want me to start? The beginning, Sakura said immediately. When did this happen? The real you? Naruto's laugh held no humor. There was never a moment when I wasn't real, Sakura. Just parts one showed and parts one didn't. He met their gazes evenly. I started hiding my abilities when I was 8 years old, after I realized that the better I performed, the more dangerous my life became. Dangerous how? Sakura pressed, a furrow forming between her brows. Let's just say not everyone in the village appreciates having the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki around, Naruto replied, the casual delivery failing to mask the weight behind the words. And they appreciate it even less when that Jinchuriki shows signs of becoming powerful. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. So you pretended to be incompetent. For years, I adapted, Naruto corrected. Created a persona that was non-threatening, even endearing in its pathetic persistence. Meanwhile, I trained in secret, studied in secret, prepared in secret. But why not tell us? Sakura asked, hurt evident in her voice. Once we became a team, because the more people who knew, the greater the risk, Naruto cut her off. And because, frankly, either of you gave me any reason to trust you with the truth. The words landed like blows. Sakura flinched, memories of her dismissive treatment rising unbidden. Sasuke's jaw tightened, but he couldn't muster a rebuttal. The techniques you used against Orochimaru, Sasuke said instead, steering towards safer ground. Those were Uzumaki clan techniques, Naruto nodded. My mother's clan specialized in sealing arts, and had unusually large chakra reserves. I've been piecing together their legacy from scraps and fragments left behind after their destruction. Your mother, Sakura repeated softly. You never talk about your parents. Because I was never supposed to know who they were, Naruto replied with a bitterness that startled them both. Another village secret I wasn't meant to uncover. The implications hung heavy in the air. Sasuke studied Naruto with new intensity, mind racing through possibilities. And the Nine-Tails? He finally asked. You can control its power? Naruto hesitated. Not exactly. It's complicated. We've reached certain understandings, but it's a work in progress. Before either teammate could pursue this line of questioning, a disturbance rumbled through the tower. The sound of many footsteps, voices raised in formal announcement. Time's up, Naruto murmured, releasing the silencing barrier with a casual gesture. The second exam just officially ended. This conversation isn't over, Sasuke warned, rising to his feet. Naruto's expression softened unexpectedly. I know. And thanks. For listening instead of just assuming the worst. Sakura stood as well, smoothing her dress with nervous hands. I still have so many questions. We all do, Sasuke agreed, his hand unconsciously moving to the curse mark on his neck. Naruto caught the gesture and frowned. We should have Kakashi-sensei look at that seal properly once this stage is complete. I don't need, Sasuke began automatically. It's Orochimaru's work, Naruto cut him off. Trust me, you don't want to mess around with that. The confidence with which he made this assessment gave Sasuke pause. Before he could respond, a sharp knock came at their door. Team 7, a Chunin proctor called. All examinees to the main hall immediately. The three exchanged glances laden with unresolved questions and newly forming bonds. Whatever had shifted between them remained fragile, undefined, but undeniably present. Ready to show the world what Team 7 is really capable of? Naruto asked, a genuine smile replacing his usual fox-like grin. Sasuke snorted, but his lips curved slightly. Don't get ahead of yourself, though. Let's go, Sakura said, straightening her shoulders. They emerged into the corridor to find other teams doing the same, converging toward the central chamber where their fates in the exam would be decided. As they walked, Naruto became aware of eyes tracking their movement, some curious, others calculating. The Sand siblings stood at the far end of the hall, Gaara's pale gaze fixed on Naruto with unnerving intensity. Nearby, Team 10 huddled close, Shikamaru's lazy posture belied by the sharp assessment in his eyes as they swept over Team 7. Against another wall, Team 8 waited, Kiba sniffing the air with confusion, Hinata's pale eyes widening as she studied Naruto with a mixture of her usual admiration and new uncertainty. Word travels fast, Naruto thought. The ripples are already spreading. The examination proctor stood assembled at the front of the hall, with the Hokage himself seated in a position of honor. Beside him stood a row of Jonin sensei, including Kakashi, whose visible eye found Naruto's immediately. Anko Mitarashi, her coat swinging with each emphatic gesture, stepped forward to address the gathered genin. Congratulations on surviving the forest of death, though I'm disappointed more of you made it than expected. Her grin was feral. Now for the best part. Since too many of you survived, we'll need preliminary matches to thin the herd before the final tournament. A murmur swept through the assembly. Naruto felt Sakura stiffen beside him. The fights will be one-on-one, randomly selected, Anko continued, gesturing to a large electronic screen on the wall. Winners advance to the finals. Losers go home. Simple. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation and dread in equal measure. Naruto caught fragments of whispered conversations. Heard there was some kind of monster in the forest. Team 7 arrived days early. Something strange about the Uzumaki kid. The Hokage rose, commanding immediate silence with his presence alone. Before we begin, I wish to remind you all of the true purpose of these exams. They exist not merely as promotion trials, but as substitutes for war, opportunities to display your village's strength without bloodshed. His aged eyes swept the room. Remember that as you fight. You represent not only yourselves but your villages and your kage. Naruto studied the old man, wondering how much he truly knew, how long he had suspected the charade. Their eyes met briefly, and something passed between them, acknowledgement, perhaps, or warning. Now, the Hokage concluded, let the preliminary matches begin. The electronic board came to life, characters flickering rapidly before settling on two names. The hall collectively held its breath as the selection appeared. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kiba Inuzuka. A bark of laughter came from across the room. Yes. Kiba crowed, pumping his fist. Easiest match of the tournament. Ready to lose, dead last? Whispers erupted anew. Most spectators clearly expected a one-sided battle. The loudmouth prankster against the Inuzuka tracker. Sasuke and Sakura exchanged knowing glances. Naruto simply smiled, a quiet expression that didn't reach his eyes. All other contestants, please move to the observation balconies, Anko ordered. Fighters, take your positions. As the crowd dispersed, Sasuke paused beside Naruto. Don't hold back, he said quietly. Not anymore. You sure? Naruto asked, genuine uncertainty flickering across his features. Once this starts, there's no going back to how things were. Sasuke's eyes flicked to the curse mark hidden beneath his collar, then to Sakura's worried face, before returning to Naruto. Things have already changed. Might as well make it count. With a nod, Naruto stepped into the arena space, facing Kiba and Akamaru with calm assessment that was already unsettling his opponent. Up in the balconies, Kurenai leaned toward Kakashi. Your student doesn't stand a chance against Kiba's speed and tracking abilities, she commented, not unkindly. Kakashi's eye curved in its familiar smile. Maybe in another life. But I wouldn't bet against Naruto today. Across the arena, Kiba settled into his stance, Akamaru bristling beside him. Don't worry, Naruto. I'll make this quick. Naruto simply rolled his shoulders, loosening muscles tight from days of restraint. You know, Kiba, he said conversationally, I've been waiting for a chance to stop pretending. Before Kiba could process the strange statement, Hate Gecko raised his hand between them. First match, Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kiba Inuzuka. Begin. The word had barely left his lips when Naruto vanished in a burst of speed that left an afterimage, reappearing behind Kiba with a palm glowing with chakra. The collective gasp from the balconies echoed through the chamber as the mask finally, completely fell away. The arena fell into a stunned silence as Naruto materialized behind Kiba, the afterimage of his movements still dissipating where he'd stood only a heartbeat before. Even Kiba hadn't processed what happened until he felt the subtle displacement of air at his back. What the? Kiba started, instinctively leaping forward as Akamaru barked in alarm. He spun mid-jump to face Naruto, whose palms still glowed with chakra, a technique aborted at the last moment. The blonde stood relaxed, a faint smile playing at his lips. Too fast for you? Naruto asked, his voice carrying across the silent arena. In the observation balcony, the collective intake of breath was audible. Kurena's crimson eyes widened as she gripped the railing. That speed, she whispered, turning to Kakashi. That wasn't a substitution jutsu. Kakashi's visible eye crinkled, feigning nonchalance even as his mind catalogued every detail of his student's movements. No, he agreed quietly. It wasn't. Below, Kiba had recovered his composure, settling into a more defensive stance with Akamaru at his side. His cocky grin had vanished, replaced by a tight-lipped focus. Lucky burst of speed, he growled, fangs gleaming. Won't happen again. Naruto shrugged, the gesture fluid and controlled, nothing like the exaggerated movements he'd always employed before. Let's find out. Kiba launched forward, claws extended. Piercing fang. His body became a whirling tornado of slashing claws, tearing across the arena floor with destructive force. Naruto watched the approaching attack with analytical calm, waiting until the last possible moment before stepping to the side with mathematical precision. His hand flashed out, catching Kiba's ankle as he passed and redirecting his momentum with a subtle application of chakra. Kiba's rotation faltered, his trajectory curving wildly. He crashed into the far wall with a pained grunt, plaster cracking beneath the impact. He redirected a piercing fang with a touch? Kurena gasped. That's impressive chakra control. Asuma finished, cigarette forgotten between his fingers. Sakura leaned forward, jade eyes narrowed in concentration. His movements, they're completely different, she murmured. Sasuke, standing beside her, activated his Sharingan briefly. He's channeling chakra through his entire body simultaneously, he observed, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. Perfect distribution. Across the arena, Guy's boisterous demeanor had given way to uncharacteristic seriousness. Kakashi, he said quietly, those movement patterns. I know, Kakashi replied, just as softly. Below, Kiba extracted himself from the wall, shaking debris from his fur-lined hood. Frustration and confusion warred on his face as he signaled to Akamaru. Let's show him what real teamwork looks like, he snarled. Akamaru, the small dog bounded forward, yipping in agreement. Kiba tossed a food pill to his companion, whose white fur instantly blazed crimson as chakra surged through his small body. Man-beast clone! Kiba shouted, hands forming rapid signs. In a puff of smoke, Akamaru transformed into a perfect copy of Kiba, both crouched and ready to attack. Naruto tilted his head, studying the transformation with academic interest. Interesting technique, he said, rolling his shoulders. Good synergy. Save the commentary. Kiba barked. Fang over fang. Twin cyclones of slashing claws spun toward Naruto from opposite directions, tearing gouges in the floor as they approached. The attack was perfectly coordinated, designed to leave no avenue of escape. Instead of dodging, Naruto's hands blurred through a sequence of unfamiliar signs. Wind style, pressure wall. A dome of compressed air erupted around him just as the dual attacks converged. Kiba and Akamaru slammed into the invisible barrier, their rotation disrupted as they were thrown backward by their own momentum. Stunned gasps rippled through the spectators. In the Hokage's viewing area, the third's pipe nearly slipped from his fingers. A wind nature transformation, he murmured, executed without a single wasted movement. Beside him, Ibiki Marino frowned deeply. His file indicates no nature affinities or capabilities beyond basic academy techniques and shadow clones. Then perhaps, the Hokage replied, measuring his words carefully, the file requires updating. On the arena floor, Kiba staggered to his feet, blood trickling from a cut on his cheek where his own attack had been turned against him. Akamaru, still transformed, shook his head to clear it. Since when do you know elemental jutsu? Kiba demanded, frustration turning to anger. Naruto's smile didn't waver. Since I decided to stop pretending. Without hand signs, he formed a shadow clone that stood beside him, mirroring his relaxed stance. The original Naruto held out his hand, and the clone began making complex movements above his palm. Visible chakra swirled into existence, condensing and rotating with increasing speed until a sphere of pure energy hummed in Naruto's palm. Not fully formed, just enough to be recognizable to those who knew what they were seeing. In the stands, multiple jonin physically recoiled. That's impossible, Asuma breathed, cigarette falling from nerveless fingers. That's the fourths. Not quite, Kakashi interrupted, his casual demeanor completely abandoned. It's incomplete. A hint rather than the full technique. Guy's face had gone unusually pale. But even a partial mastery of that jutsu requires chakra control far beyond genin level. Naruto allowed the swirling chakra to dissipate, dismissing his clone with a casual gesture. The demonstration had achieved its purpose, a warning and a statement both. Kiba, unaware of the significance, saw only another technique to overcome. I don't care what tricks you've learned, he shouted, desperation edging his voice. We're not done yet. He tossed another soldier pill to Akamaru, and both their chakras flared visibly. Ultimate technique, Fang Wolf Fang. The twin cyclones that erupted toward Naruto were larger, faster, and far more destructive than before. Stone tiles shattered beneath their path as they converged on their target with lethal intent. This time, Naruto moved. Unlike the blurred speed of before, this movement was visible, deliberate, meant to be seen and understood. He flowed like water around the twin attacks, body twisting in a familiar pattern that had several of the older shinobi clutching the railing in disbelief. The Yellow Flash's Academy kata, Guy whispered, perfected to combat application. Naruto's hand struck out twice in rapid succession, fingers pressing precise points on Kiba's and Akamaru's bodies as they passed. Both attackers instantly faltered, their rotations collapsing as their chakra networks temporarily disrupted. Kiba crashed to the ground, Akamaru's transformation dispelling in a puff of smoke as the small dog tumbled beside his master. Both tried to rise and found their limbs responding sluggishly, as if moving through water. Chakra suppression strikes, Kurenai identified, her professional analysis unable to mask her shock. That's a Jonin-level technique. Naruto stood over his opponents, not a hair out of place. I could continue, he said quietly, but I think we both know where this ends. Kiba struggled to his knees, frustration and disbelief warring on his face. How? He demanded. How is this possible? You were the dead last. You could barely create a single clone in the academy. For a moment, the mask slipped back into place, Naruto's familiar broad grin and scratching the back of his head. But it vanished just as quickly, replaced by something more authentic, more measured. I had my reasons, he said simply, extending a hand to help Kiba up. Kiba stared at the offered hand, pride and confusion battling visibly in his expression before he grudgingly accepted it. Hate Gecko, the exam proctor, stepped forward, coughing into his fist. The winner is Naruto Uzumaki, he announced, voice betraying no surprise despite the unprecedented display. As medical ninja approached to check on Kiba and Akamaru, Naruto turned and walked calmly back toward the stairs. The silence that had gripped the arena gave way to a furious buzz of whispers and exclamations. Did you see? Impossible for a genin, just like the fourth used to. Been hiding this all along? Shikamaru Nara, leaning against the balcony railing, watched Naruto's ascent with narrowed eyes. Troublesome, he muttered. Very troublesome. Beside him, Choji paused midship. What is? Everything we thought we knew, Shikamaru replied cryptically. As Naruto reached the observation level, he was met by Sakura's wide-eyed stare and Sasuke's evaluating gaze. Was that really necessary? Sakura asked quietly. That was more than just winning, that was a statement. Naruto leaned against the railing next to them, his posture relaxed but alert. Yes, he replied simply. It was necessary. Across the balcony, the Jonin sensei had gathered in a tight cluster, voices low but intense. Periodic glances toward Naruto confirmed the subject of their heated discussion. The foreign Jonin are watching you now, Sasuke observed, nodding subtly toward the Sand Team's sensei, Baki, whose calculating gaze hadn't left Naruto since the match ended. Let them watch, Naruto replied, voice pitched for his teammates alone. The time for shadows is over. The electronic board flickered to life again, cycling through names for the next match. The randomized selection settled on Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. Sasuke's jaw tightened, his hand unconsciously rising to the curse mark on his neck. Naruto caught the gesture and frowned. The seal's still unstable, he murmured. You should forfeit. Pride flashed in Sasuke's eyes. After that display? Not a chance, Naruto sighed. Then at least avoid using chakra if possible. That seal activates strongest when you draw on your reserves. Sasuke paused on his way to the stairs, surprise evident in his momentary hesitation. How do you know that? I've been studying Orochimaru's work for years, Naruto replied. Seals are seals, no matter who creates them. His just happened to be more sadistic than most. Before Sasuke could process this revelation, hate called his name. With a final nod to his teammates, he descended to the arena floor. Kakashi appeared beside them as if materializing from thin air. Quite the performance, he said to Naruto, voice casual despite the steel in his visible eye. Just getting started, sensei, Naruto replied with equal lightness. Kakashi's gaze shifted to Sasuke, now facing his opponent below. And your assessment of his situation? The curse mark will activate if he draws too much chakra, Naruto stated without hesitation. But it might activate anyway if he gets emotional or desperate. And a counter seal? Possible, Naruto said, eyes never leaving Sasuke's form as the match began. But it would require preparation and a safe environment, not something to attempt between preliminary matches. Kakashi studied his student with newfound evaluation. Your knowledge of sealing is extensive. A ghost of Naruto's fox-like grin flashed across his face. You have no idea, sensei. Below, Sasuke's match had begun in earnest. Yoroi, his face half hidden behind tinted glasses and a mask, pressed an aggressive attack. His hands glowed with chakra as he attempted to grapple with the Uchiha. Chakra absorption technique, Naruto identified, watching Yoroi's movements. Interesting choice against someone with a Sharingan. Sasuke evaded the first several attempts, his natural speed and reflexes serving him well. But the curse mark's influence was evident in his constrained movements, his reluctance to call on his full abilities. When Yoroi's hand finally made contact with Sasuke's arm, the effect was immediate. Chakra visibly drained from the Uchiha, his face contorting in pain as he staggered backward. Smart, Kakashi murmured. Deplete his chakra before the curse mark can use it. Almost too convenient, Naruto replied, eyes narrowing. Almost as if someone arranged for Sasuke to face an opponent with the perfect technique to test the curse mark's limits. Kakashi's sharp glance suggested this possibility hadn't escaped him either. In the arena, Sasuke broke free of Yoroi's grip with a desperate kick. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he maintained distance, clearly reconsidering his approach. The curse mark pulsed visibly at his neck, tendrils of its pattern beginning to creep across his skin. He needs to end this quickly, Naruto said, tension evident in his voice. Before the seal progresses further. As if hearing these words, Sasuke's expression hardened with resolve. He darted forward, ducking under Yoroi's reaching hands to deliver a sweeping kick that launched his opponent skyward. The dancing leaf shadow, Guy identified as Sasuke, appeared beneath Yoroi's airborne form. But without proper chakra control, he's improvising, Naruto finished, leaning forward intently. Instead of the chakra-intensive lion's barrage, Sasuke executed a series of precisely angled strikes, using momentum and physical force rather than enhanced techniques. The final axe kick drove Yoroi into the ground with crushing impact. The curse mark receded as quickly as it had appeared, Sasuke standing victorious but visibly drained over his unconscious opponent. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha, Hate announced. As medical ninja rushed to attend to Yoroi, Kakashi vanished from the observation deck, reappearing beside Sasuke to escort him from the arena. Their departure toward a side corridor suggested the Jonin wasn't taking chances with the curse mark's stability. Sakura exhaled shakily. He managed to control it. This time, Naruto cautioned. But it'll get worse without intervention. The electronic board activated again, names flashing before settling on the next match. Shino Aburame vs Sakuabumi. As the contestants made their way to the arena floor, Naruto became aware of a presence approaching. Hinata Hyuga edged closer, fingers pressed together in her characteristic gesture of nervousness. And Naruto-kun, she began softly, that was amazing. Naruto turned to her with a gentle smile, not the exaggerated grin of his facade, but something more genuine. Thank you, Hinata. Her pale eyes widened at the difference in his demeanor, a blush spreading across her cheeks. You've always been as strong, she continued, but that was different? He supplied. She nodded, gathering courage. Why did you hide it? The question, simple and direct, caused Naruto to pause. Below them, Shino and Zaku had begun their match, but neither paid attention to the proceedings. Sometimes, Naruto finally said, the world isn't ready for what you really are. So you wait, and you prepare, until the moment is right. His blue eyes studied her with unexpected perception. I think you understand that better than most, don't you? Hinata's breath caught, color deepening across her face. For once, she didn't look away, meeting his gaze with growing determination. I do, she whispered. Your match will come soon, Naruto said, glancing meaningfully toward where Niji stood with his team. When it does, remember that other people's expectations don't define your limits. Something shifted in Hinata's expression, a subtle straightening of her shoulders, a firming of her usually hesitant mouth. She nodded once, decisively. I will remember, she promised. A commotion from the arena drew their attention. Zaku lay defeated, both arms horribly damaged by Shino's insect technique. As the medical team rushed in, the board flashed to life once more. Misumi Tsurugi vs. Kankuro. The masked puppeteer from San sauntered down to face his opponent, the wrapped bundle on his back shifting slightly with each step. Throughout the arena, the atmosphere had changed perceptibly. The routine advancement of typical Chunin preliminaries had given way to a heightened tension, every match now viewed through the lens of Naruto's unexpected revelation. They're all watching differently now, Sakura observed, voicing Naruto's thoughts. Evaluating everyone more carefully. Good, Naruto replied. Underestimation is a deadly habit in our world. The match below proceeded quickly, Kankuro's puppet technique proving superior to Misumi's body modification abilities. As the Sand Shinobi was declared the winner, Naruto noticed Gaara's unblinking stare fixed upon him from across the arena. He hasn't taken his eyes off you since your match, Sakura whispered, following Naruto's gaze. He recognizes what I contain, Naruto replied quietly, matching Gaara's stare without flinching. Just as I recognize what he carries. Before Sakura could question this cryptic statement, the board activated again. Sakura Haruno vs. Ino Yamanaka. Sakura stiffened beside him, determination and anxiety warring in her expression. You've got this, Naruto said, surprising her with a supportive hand on her shoulder. Just remember, they expect a simple rivalry match between kunoichi. Use that expectation against them. Sakura blinked, absorbing his words with newfound consideration. She nodded sharply and made her way to the arena floor where Ino already waited. The match that followed bore subtle differences from what might have happened in another timeline. Sakura, influenced by Naruto's revelation and advice, fought with more calculation and less emotional reaction. When Ino's mind transfer jutsu finally connected, Sakura's resistance was not merely based on her feelings for Sasuke, but on a newly awakened determination to define herself beyond others' perceptions. The double knockout that resulted left both girls unconscious but having demonstrated unexpected resilience. They'd both grown, Asuma commented as the medical team carried the kunoichi from the arena. Some more obviously than others, Kurenai replied, her gaze sliding back to Naruto. The next matches proceeded with increasing intensity. Tenten's precision weapons were overwhelmed by Temari's wind techniques. Shikamaru's tactical genius overcame Kin's sound-based genjutsu. Each contestant fought with a heightened awareness that they were being evaluated not just for Chunin promotion, but against new and unexpected standards. Finally, the board displayed Hinata Hyuga vs. Niji Hyuga. A collective tension gripped the arena. The matchup between main and branch house members carried political implications beyond a simple advancement match. Hinata descended the stairs with measured steps, her usual timidity replaced by quiet resolve. Niji's cold disdain was evident even from a distance, as he took his position opposite his cousin. Watch carefully, Kakashi murmured, having returned from securing Sasuke's curse mark. This will be illuminating. The match began with Niji's psychological attack, cutting words about fate and inadequacy designed to destabilize Hinata before physical combat began. But where another Hinata might have crumbled, this one stood straighter, pale eyes flickering briefly toward Naruto before returning to her cousin. I know what you think of me, Niji Nizan, she said, voice soft but steady. But today, I choose to define myself. Surprise flickered across Niji's face before his features hardened again. Fine words won't change destiny, Hinata-sama. What followed was not the one-sided demolition that might have been. Though Niji's superior technique ultimately prevailed, Hinata fought with unexpected determination, landing several significant strikes and refusing to yield even when clearly outmatched. When she finally collapsed, blood trailing from her mouth, there was a new respect in the eyes of many observers, and barely contained fury in Niji's. As medical ninja rushed to stabilize Hinata's condition, Naruto's hands gripped the railing with white-knuckled tension. He was aiming to kill, he said, voice tight with controlled anger. The last strike was directed at her heart. The hatred between Hyuga branches runs deep, Kakashi observed, though his own posture suggested he shared Naruto's assessment. Below, Niji cast a contemptuous glance toward the observation deck. Your encouragement nearly got her killed, he called out, eyes fixed on Naruto. Some people cannot change what they are, no matter how they pretend. The irony of his statement in light of Naruto's own revelation hung in the air. Naruto's response was not the heated outburst of righteous indignation that might once have erupted, but a cold, evaluating stare. Be careful what convictions you build your identity around, Niji, he replied quietly. They have a way of crumbling when you least expect it. The final matches passed in quick succession. Gaara's brutal defeat of Lee cast a pall over the proceedings. The green-clad Genin's devastating injuries a stark reminder of the real dangers underlying the exam's formality. Throughout Lee's match, Naruto studied Gaara with increasing intensity. The Sand Jinchuriki's chakra fluctuations, visible to Naruto's sensitive perception, told a story of poor sealing and dangerous instability. His seal is atrocious, Naruto murmured to Kakashi. Whoever contained the one tail either didn't know what they were doing or deliberately created a flawed vessel. Kakashi's sharp glance contained multitudes. That's a concerning assessment. It should be, Naruto replied grimly. He's a walking time bomb. The final match between Choji and Dosa concluded with the Sound Ninja's victory, bringing the preliminary rounds to their end. The remaining contestants were called to the arena floor for the final tournament drawing. As Naruto descended the stairs, he was acutely aware of the changed atmosphere. Jonin-sensei tracked his movement with calculating eyes. Fellow contestants maintained careful distance. The transformation from invisible pariah to mysterious threat had occurred in the space of a single match. Anko Mitarashi held out a box containing folded papers. Draw your numbers to determine the tournament brackets, she instructed. One by one, the advancing genin selected their positions. When all had drawn, the tournament structure was revealed. Match 1, Naruto Uzumaki vs Niji Hyuga. Match 2, Gaara vs Sasuke Uchiha. Match 3, Kankuro vs Shino Aburame. Match 4, Temari vs Shikamaru Nara. Match 5, Dosa Kinyuta vs winner of Match 1. Naruto's eyes met Niji's across the assembly. The Hyuga's cold hatred contrasted with Naruto's measured evaluation. You have 1 month to prepare for the final tournament, the Hokage announced. Use this time wisely, for you will be representing not only yourselves but your villages before the lords and leaders of many nations. As the assembly disbanded, Naruto found himself approached by Shikamaru, whose typical expression of lazy disinterest had given way to sharp assessment. You're troublesome, you know that? The Nara genius drawled. Naruto's lips quirked. So I've been told. What you showed today changes things, Shikamaru continued, voice pitched low. Not just the matches, but everything. That was the point. Shikamaru studied him for a long moment. How long have you been playing shogi while the rest of us were playing checkers? The metaphor drew a genuine smile from Naruto. Longer than I care to remember, he admitted. But the game changes now. Clearly, Shikamaru agreed, gaze drifting to where the Sand siblings departed, Gaara's cold eyes still fixed on Naruto. Just remember, when you change the board, all pieces must adapt or fall. With that cryptic warning, he slouched away, leaving Naruto to consider the ripples spreading outward from his revelation. Across the arena, foreign jonin huddled in hushed conversation, periodic glances toward Naruto confirming the subject of their discussion. Baki, the Sand team's leader, spoke urgently into a communications device, his expression grave. Kakashi appeared at Naruto's shoulder, subtle tension evident beneath his casual posture. You've drawn considerable attention, he observed. That was inevitable, Naruto replied. Better on my terms than theirs. Perhaps, Kakashi conceded. But now our month of preparation becomes critical. Your opponent is formidable, and others will be watching closely for any further revelations. Naruto nodded, gaze traveling to where the Hokage conferred with his advisors, their expressions troubled as they periodically glanced his way. What happens now, sensei? Kakashi's visible eye curved in what might have been a smile or a grimace. Now the real game begins. Miles away, in a dimly lit underground chamber, Kabuto Yakushi knelt before the shadowed figure of Orochimaru. His report, delivered in precise, measured tones, detailed the preliminary matches with particular emphasis on 2 genin. Sasuke's curse mark activated partially during his match but was suppressed, either by his will or Kakashi's intervention, he concluded. But the real surprise was Naruto Uzumaki. He demonstrated abilities far beyond his documented capabilities. Orochimaru's pale fingers tapped a rhythmic pattern against his chair arm. Elaborate, advanced chakra control, wind nature transformation, and most significantly, Uzumaki sealing techniques, Kabuto detailed. His movement patterns also bore striking resemblance to the 4th Hokage's academy style. A slow smile spread across Orochimaru's serpentine features. How fascinating. Our little fox has been hiding his teeth and claws. There's more, Kabuto added, adjusting his glasses. Several jonin in attendance made the connection between his techniques and the 4th's. There are already whispers about potential heritage connections. The fools finally noticing what's been before their eyes for years. Orochimaru chuckled darkly. How deliciously ironic. Should we adjust our plans? The Uchiha is still viable, but the Uzumaki boy now presents an unexpected variable. Orochimaru leaned back, golden eyes gleaming in the dim light. No adjustment needed, merely expansion. Sasuke's body remains my primary objective, but I find myself increasingly curious about young Naruto's development. His tongue flicked out to wet his lips. 2 legendary bloodlines developing under my observation? What scientist could resist such an opportunity? And the invasion plans? Proceed as arranged, Orochimaru commanded. but ensure our forces understand that both the Uchiha and the Uzumaki are to be captured rather than killed if possible. Kabuto rose smoothly, bowing before his master. As you wish, Lord Orochimaru. As his subordinate departed, Orochimaru remained in contemplative silence, fingers steepled before him. Minato's legacy and Kushina's blood, he mused aloud. Combined with the Nine-Tails' power, and hidden in plain sight all these years. A cold laugh escaped him. Oh, Sarutobi-sensei, what a terrible mistake you've made. The chamber echoed with his laughter, the sound slithering through stone passages like something alive and hungry. Back in Konoha, beneath the starlit sky, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, eyes fixed on the village spread below. The lights of countless homes twinkled like earthbound stars. Lives unfolding in blissful ignorance of the currents, shifting beneath their peaceful existence. His gaze drifted to the fourth Hokage's stone face, the carved features so similar to his own. The time for shadows is ending, he whispered to the night air. I hope you're watching, wherever you are. With the preliminary revelations now behind him, Naruto turned his focus to the challenges ahead. A month of preparation, a tournament of scrutiny, and beyond that, a future forever altered by the day he stopped hiding his true potential. The mask had fallen, and there was no going back. Dawn painted Konoha's rooftops in shades of molten gold, the village still wrapped in that peculiar hush that precedes full awakening. Naruto stood on his apartment balcony, breathing in the cool morning air, savoring a moment of solitude before the day's complications descended. 3 days had passed since the preliminaries, 3 days of whispers following him through the streets, of suddenly attentive shopkeepers, of calculating gazes from shinobi who'd previously dismissed him with contempt. The revelation of his abilities had rippled through the village like a stone dropped in still water, disturbing the comfortable assumptions of years. A sharp knock at his door broke the tranquility. Naruto didn't bother activating the trap seals hidden in the doorframe. He already recognized the chakra's signature waiting, impatiently on the other side. It's open, Ebisu-sensei, he called, turning from the balcony. The door swung open to reveal the special Jonin, his perpetual sunglasses failing to hide his discomfort. Ebisu stepped inside, posture stiff with formality that hadn't been present during their previous encounters. Naruto-kun, he greeted, the honorific a new addition. I've been assigned as your training supervisor for the month leading to the finals. Naruto concealed his amusement, offering a polite nod instead of the boisterous reaction Ebisu clearly expected. I appreciate the Hokage's consideration. Ebisu adjusted his sunglasses, clearly thrown by Naruto's measured response. Yes, well, we should begin immediately. I've prepared a training regimen focused on chakra control exercises and basic ninjutsu applications. Naruto finished, a hint of his old mischief surfacing. Perhaps some water walking practice at the hot springs? The Jonin's mouth tightened. Your recent demonstration suggests my initial assessment of your abilities was flawed. You could say that, Naruto agreed, moving to gather his equipment. But I'm curious, why assign you specifically? Kakashi-sensei would be the logical choice, given your focus on fundamentals. Ebisu's discomfort intensified visibly. Kakashi-sensei is occupied with Sasuke Uchiha's training. The curse seal requires specialized attention. Ah. Naruto buckled his weapons pouch with practiced efficiency. And I'm considered less of a priority? Or is it that my sudden display of ability has made the council nervous about who should have access to me? The special Jonin stiffened, confirming Naruto's suspicions without a word. I see. Naruto's voice cooled several degrees. Well, shall we get started? I wouldn't want to waste the village's valuable resources. Ebisu led him through the awakening streets, their destination apparently the training grounds near the village's eastern edge. The morning bustle parted around them, villagers and shinobi alike staring with undisguised curiosity. Defeated an Inuzuka with pure speed, some kind of prodigy in disguise. Did you see those sealing techniques? Reminds me of. The last whisper cut off abruptly as the speaker noticed Naruto's attention. The comparisons had already begun, then, sooner than he'd anticipated. They reached a secluded clearing bordered by a lazy river, morning mist still clinging to the water's surface. Ebisu stopped, turning to face his reluctant student with renewed professionalism. Before we begin, I need to assess your actual skill level, he stated. No more hiding, no more pretense. Naruto considered the Jonin, weighing his options. Ebisu wasn't the instructor he wanted or needed, but antagonizing him served no purpose. Besides, the presence of at least 3 ANBU observers in the surrounding trees suggested this training session had multiple purposes. Fair enough, he agreed, dropping his pack. What would you like to see? Ebisu's request for a chakra control demonstration led to Naruto casually walking up the trunk of a massive oak, then hanging upside down from a branch with one finger. His execution of the Academy's basic techniques followed: substitution, transformation, and clones performed with flawless precision that left Ebisu visibly reassessing his assumptions. Nature transformation? The Jonin prompted, scribbling notes on a small pad. Naruto formed a single-hand seal, exhaled a controlled stream of wind that sliced a leaf floating in the river into perfect halves, then casually ignited a small campfire with a minor fire technique. Wind primary, fire secondary, he explained. I have rudimentary understanding of water manipulation, but it's not combat ready yet. By mid-morning, Ebisu's clipboard contained pages of increasingly agitated notes. The special Jonin paced the riverbank, his entire training plan obviously obsolete in the face of Naruto's demonstrated capabilities. You should be, he stopped, visibly collecting himself. Why would you hide this level of proficiency? You could have graduated at the top of your class, perhaps even skipped grades entirely. Naruto sat cross-legged on the water's surface, the perfect chakra control required for the feat appearing effortless. Being underestimated has advantages, he replied, especially for someone with my special circumstances. Ebisu's lips thinned. They both knew he was referring to his status as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Besides, Naruto continued, rising fluidly to his feet without disturbing the water surface. Would Konoha have been comfortable with a powerful, skilled demon container? Or did they prefer the harmless, bumbling fool they could safely dismiss? Before Ebisu could formulate a response, a new chakra signature approached, massive, barely contained, and achingly familiar to Naruto. Well, boomed a theatrical voice from atop a nearby boulder. What have we here? Ebisu, are you really the best the village could offer our young prodigy? Both turned to see a large man with wild white hair and red facial markings, his pose deliberately dramatic against the morning sun. Jiraiya of the sanin had arrived, his timing too perfect to be coincidental. Ebisu sputtered, Lord Jiraiya. Aye, the Hokage assigned. I'm sure he did, Jiraiya interrupted, jumping down with surprising grace for a man his size. But plans change. The old man and I had a chat this morning, and we agreed that Naruto's training requires specialized attention. His dark eyes fixed on Naruto, keen intelligence beneath the buffoonish exterior. Isn't that right, kid? Naruto returned the Sanin's gaze steadily. This wasn't how their meeting had occurred in the timeline he remembered. There had been no pretense of peeping at bathhouses, no prolonged convincing. Something had changed in the village's calculations. If you say so, he replied noncommittally. Though I admit I'm curious about the sudden interest from one of the legendary sanin. Jiraiya's boisterous laugh held a sharp edge. Sudden? Kid, I've been keeping tabs on you since you were in diapers. His gaze flickered meaningfully toward the hidden ANBU observers. Ebisu, you're dismissed. Official order from the Hokage. The special Jonin hesitated, glancing between them before reluctantly bowing. As you wish, Lord Jiraiya. Naruto-kun, good luck with your training. Once Ebisu had departed, Jiraiya's demeanor shifted subtly, the bombastic persona receding just enough to reveal the calculating shinobi beneath. Walk with me, he said, no longer a request. They followed the river's winding path deeper into the forest, either speaking until they'd left the ANBU perimeter behind. Jiraiya activated a privacy seal with casual expertise, the shimmering barrier enveloping them in a bubble of security. So, the Sanin began, studying Naruto with undisguised interest. You've been holding out on everyone. Care to explain why my godson has been pretending to be Konoha's dead last for years? The blunt acknowledgement of their relationship, never mentioned in Naruto's previous timeline, struck like a physical blow. Naruto stopped walking, momentarily unable to mask his shock. Godson? He repeated, voice uncharacteristically small. Something flickered across Jiraiya's face, regret, perhaps, or guilt. Yeah, kid. Though I've done a piss-poor job of it, obviously. Naruto recovered quickly, the moment of vulnerability sealed away behind practiced composure. You're right about that. But then, abandonment seems to be a recurring theme in my life. The barb struck home. Jiraiya winced visibly. Fair hit. But we're not here to discuss my failings as a godfather. Plenty of time for that later. I want to know how the hell a genin who supposedly couldn't create a basic clone 3 months ago is suddenly throwing around uzumaki sealing techniques and moving like Minato's ghost. Naruto considered his options carefully. Jiraiya represented both opportunity and complication, a link to his parents and a potential ally, but also a man with his own agenda and loyalties. It's a long story, he hedged. I've got time. Jiraiya leaned against a massive oak, arms crossed. And unlike most people in this village, I've actually got the clearance to hear it. Decision made. Naruto perched on a fallen log, organizing his thoughts. I started hiding my abilities when I was 8, he began. After the third assassination attempt, Jiraiya's expression darkened. The civilians with the fire? You knew about that? I have sources, the sanin replied grimly. Continue. I realized something important that night, Naruto said, eyes distant with memory. The villagers could tolerate the demon brat as long as he was harmless. A nuisance, not a threat. But a Jinchuriki showing real power? That terrified them. So you became the clown instead of the monster, Jiraiya surmised. Exactly. I created a persona they could dismiss. Loud, incompetent, harmless. A ghost of his foxy grin flashed. Meanwhile, I trained in secret, studied in secret, prepared in secret. Self-taught? Jiraiya's skepticism was evident, initially. Naruto met his godfather's eyes directly. Until I found the scrolls, the temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Jiraiya's casual posture vanished, replaced by the alertness of a seasoned shinobi sensing danger. What scrolls? My mother's. In the silence that followed, birds could be heard calling in the distance, the babble of the river a constant counterpoint to the momentous conversation. Impossible, Jiraiya finally said. Kushina's sealing archives were secured after her death. Only the Hokage and I know their location. Naruto's laugh held no humor. You mean the sealed underground chamber beneath the ruins of the Uzumaki compound? The one with the blood recognition lock key to Uzumaki chakra? The blood drained from Jiraiya's face. How did you find it? I'm her son. Did you really think I wouldn't eventually be drawn to the place my clan once lived? Naruto shook his head. I discovered it when I was 10, during one of the village's celebrations of the fourth sacrifice. Ironically, while hiding from drunk civilians. And the blood seal just let you in. Jiraiya's disbelief was evident. Not immediately. It took multiple attempts, actually. Naruto rubbed his palm, memory of old frustrations surfacing. My chakra was too contaminated with the Nine-Tails influence at first. I had to learn rudimentary chakra filtering before the seal recognized me as Uzumaki. Self-taught chakra filtering at age 10, Jiraiya muttered. Unbelievable. Necessary, Naruto corrected. Once I gained access, everything changed. My mother's journals, her technique scrolls, her personal notes on Fuinjutsu theory. A legacy I never knew existed, hidden away for my protection. The bitterness in those last words was unmistakable. Jiraiya pushed away from the tree, pacing the small clearing. The old man should have told me you'd found them. This changes everything, does it? Naruto challenged. Or does it just force certain plans to accelerate? The sanin's sharp glance confirmed Naruto's suspicions. You've always been too perceptive for your own good, haven't you? He sighed heavily. Yes, kid. There have been plans, contingencies. Things set in motion years ago that you were never supposed to know about until you were older, more prepared. More controllable, you mean? More stable, Jiraiya corrected firmly. The Nine-Tails complicates everything, Naruto. Your father sealed it inside you because he believed you could master its power someday. But that path is fraught with risks. Naruto absorbed this, the confirmation of his parentage spoken aloud for the first time. So what happens now? Jiraiya studied him, calculation and genuine concern warring in his expression. Now? We train. For real. No more shadows, no more whispers. A slow smile spread across his face. Let's see exactly what you've learned from Kushina's scrolls. Across the village, in a training ground nestled against the mountainside, Sasuke Uchiha faced his own revelations. Kakashi stood before him, Sharingan exposed, the air between them crackling with lethal intent. Again, the Jonin commanded, no trace of his usual lackadaisical demeanor present. Sasuke launched forward, chakra surging through pathways still tender from the curse mark's influence. His hands flashed through signs, fire blooming from his lips in a controlled stream that Kakashi sliced through with a precisely timed water jutsu. Faster, Kakashi pressed, his counterattack forcing Sasuke to dodge with millimeter precision. Your opponent won't give you time to think. Frustration built in Sasuke's chest, the curse mark pulsing in response. For 3 days they had trained like this. Relentless, brutal sessions focused on speed and control rather than new techniques. The containment seal Kakashi had placed over Orochimaru's mark helped, but pain still radiated from the site whenever he pushed his limits. I need more, Sasuke growled, ducking under a whistling kunai. Gaara won't be defeated by basics, and you won't survive 10 seconds against him if you can't manage your chakra perfectly, Kakashi countered, suddenly behind him. Your curse mark reacts to emotional states as well as chakra depletion. Control is everything. Sasuke spun, Sharingan blazing, his frustration sharpening to a familiar edge. While I'm drilling fundamentals, Naruto is probably learning S-rank techniques from a sanin. The words escaped before he could contain them, revealing the true source of his agitation. Kakashi paused, his visible eye narrowing in assessment. So that's what this is about. No, Sasuke snapped, then relented. Maybe. I don't know. He ran a hand through sweat-soaked hair. Everything's changed since the forest. The dead last suddenly isn't. The power gap I thought I'd closed is wider than ever. And now I'm fighting for attention while he what? Kakashi interrupted softly. Finally receives the training he should have had years ago? Is acknowledged for abilities he kept hidden to survive in a village that despised him? The rebuke landed with precision, silencing Sasuke's complaints. Kakashi sighed, covering his Sharingan. Sit down, Sasuke. It's time we had a real conversation. Reluctantly, Sasuke dropped to the ground, legs crossed, frustration still simmering beneath his composed exterior. Kakashi joined him, uncharacteristically serious. What do you know about Jinchuriki? The Jonin asked. Sasuke frowned. Human sacrifices. Weapons created by sealing-tailed beasts into people. His eyes widened fractionally. Like Naruto and the Nine Tails. Exactly. But they're more than weapons, they're people, forced to bear burdens most of us can't imagine. Kakashi's gaze turned distant. Naruto has lived his entire life hated for something beyond his control, feared for power he never asked for. But he's not just a Jinchuriki, Sasuke argued. The techniques he used against Kiba, the sealing knowledge, those aren't Kyuubi powers. No, Kakashi agreed. Those are Naruto. The real Naruto, the one who survived by creating a mask the village could tolerate. He fixed Sasuke with a penetrating stare. Sound familiar? The implication struck uncomfortably close to home. Hadn't Sasuke himself constructed a persona after the massacre? The aloof avenger, the determined loner, the genius burdened by expectations? What's your point? He asked, defensive. My point is that you and Naruto have more in common than either of you realize, Kakashi replied. Both orphaned by tragedy. Both carrying legacies bigger than yourselves. Both hiding your true feelings behind carefully constructed facades. Sasuke absorbed this, the perspective shift uncomfortable but impossible to dismiss entirely. As for your training, Kakashi continued, rising to his feet, I'm focusing on fundamentals because that's what you need to survive your match with Gaara. His sand techniques require pinpoint timing and flawless execution to counter. No new jutsu will help if you can't maintain perfect control with that curse mark interfering. Logic, cold, and irrefutable. Sasuke nodded reluctantly. And afterward? He pressed. If I advance? A hint of Kakashi's usual eye smile appeared. Then I have something special planned. Something only a Sharingan user can master. The implicit promise hung between them, a carrot dangled before a particularly stubborn horse. Sasuke's lips twitched despite himself. Fine, he conceded. Fundamentals first. Excellent choice, Kakashi approved, dropping back into a combat stance. Now again, and this time, try to actually hit me. Twilight descended over Konoha, painting the Hokage Tower in shades of amber and shadow. Inside the council chamber, voices had risen beyond their usual measured tones, the atmosphere charged with tension that had built throughout the long session. This changes everything, Koharu Yutane insisted, aged hands pressed flat against the polished table. If the boy truly possesses Uzumaki sealing knowledge, combined with his Jinchuriki status, he becomes an asset we cannot afford to mismanage. Hamura Mitokado finished, eyes sharp despite his years. The question remains, why was this hidden from the council? The third Hokage drew on his pipe, the brief flare illuminating weathered features set in diplomatic neutrality. Nothing was hidden, he countered. Naruto's capabilities were unknown to us all, by his design. A genin deceived the entire village? Danzo Shimura's skepticism dripped acid. Or perhaps certain oversight was conveniently lax? The accusation hung in the air, directed at both the Hokage and the ANBU commander standing silently in the corner. Hindsight offers perfect vision, Hiruzen replied evenly. The boy adapted to survive in hostile circumstances. We should perhaps question why a child felt such measures necessary, rather than how he accomplished them. Danzo's visible eye narrowed. Sentiment clouds your judgment, Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki's emotional state is irrelevant compared to the security implications of his newfound abilities. Newfound? A new voice entered the fray as Jiraiya emerged from the shadows by the window, his entrance deliberately theatrical. Or newly revealed? There's a difference. Several council members started at his appearance, though the Hokage showed no surprise. Evidently, his former student had been expected. The Toad Sage graces us with his presence, Danzo observed coldly. I assume you've evaluated the boy? I've begun to, Jiraiya confirmed, dropping into an empty chair with deliberate casualness. And I can confirm two things. First, his abilities are genuine, self-taught from Uzumaki sources. And second, your assessment of the situation is typically short-sighted. Danzo. The root commander's fingers tighten almost imperceptibly on his cane. Elaborate. You see a weapon to be controlled, Jiraiya said bluntly. I see Minato and Kushina's son finally coming into his birthright. The question isn't how to contain him, but how to support him. A ripple passed through the assembled council members. Confirmation of parentage that many had suspected but few had heard stated so openly. The Namikaze connection cannot be publicly acknowledged, Koharu insisted. The political ramifications are increasingly unavoidable, the Hokage interrupted. The physical resemblance grows more pronounced each year. His emerging skill set bears unmistakable similarities to both his parents. The Chunin exam finals will be attended by dignitaries from multiple nations, many of whom knew Minato personally. You cannot seriously be considering a public revelation, Hamura protested. What I'm considering, Hiruzen replied with steel beneath the measured tone, is that secrets have their season. Some secrets protect, others strangle. Perhaps it's time we reconsider which category this one falls into. Danzo rose abruptly, his cane striking the floor with finality. I formally register my objection to any disclosure of the Jinchuriki's parentage. The potential for destabilization is noted, the Hokage cut him off. As is your objection. However, no decisions will be made today. We will reconvene after further assessment of Naruto's capabilities and the political landscape. The dismissal was clear. Council members filed out, whispered conversations already forming between shifting alliances. Danzo lingered last, his single eye fixed on the Hokage with unreadable intent before he too departed. When only Hiruzen and Jiraiya remained, the Hokage's controlled expression gave way to weary concern. Your assessment? He asked quietly. Jiraiya moved to the window, gazing out at the village lights blooming against the gathering darkness. The kid's good. Better than good. His understanding of Fuinjutsu fundamentals is solid, rough in places, self-taught with gaps, but the foundation is there. And the Nine Tails? He's achieved a working relationship of sorts, Jiraiya replied, choosing his words carefully. Not friendship, not mastery, but something in between. The seal is stable but different than I expected. The Hokage's brow furrowed. Different how? Modified, Jiraiya admitted reluctantly. He's made adjustments to the 8 trigram seal, subtle ones, using uzumaki techniques from Kushina's archives. Alarm flashed across Hiruzen's features. He tampered with the 4th seal? The risks were calculated, Jiraiya interrupted. That's what shocked me the most. These weren't desperate gambles. They were precisely engineered adjustments based on sound theory. The kind of work you'd expect from a seal master with decades of experience, not a 13-year-old kid. The Hokage sank deeper into his chair, the weight of implications heavy across his shoulders. Prodigious talent, Minato's tactical mind, Kushina's sealing affinity, and the Nine Tails' power, all hidden behind a carefully constructed mask of incompetence. He shook his head slowly. We've underestimated him, Jiraiya. Badly. We all did, the sanin agreed. Though I suspect that was exactly his intention. He turned from the window, expression uncharacteristically serious. The question now is whether Konoha can earn back the trust of a child who's learned to survive by deceiving it. No ready answer presented itself, the question hanging in the air between them as darkness claimed the village below. Midnight found Naruto seated cross-legged in a secluded grove far from prying eyes, concentric circles of ceiling tags creating a barrier of both protection and privacy. The day's training with Jiraiya had been illuminating for both student and teacher, a careful dance of revelation and reservation as each gauged the other's knowledge and intentions. Now, in solitude, he could focus on the project that had occupied his nights since the preliminaries. The scroll spread before him contained diagrams and calculations written in his own precise hand, the margins filled with annotations drawn from multiple sources, his mother's theoretical notes, observations of his father's techniques, and his own innovations born of necessity and insight. A seal-augmented rasengan, he murmured, fingers tracing the spiral pattern at the diagram's center. The rotation provides the perfect vehicle for seal deployment if the stability issues can be resolved. A gentle pulse of chakra activated the demonstration array inscribed on a separate tag. Tiny motes of blue energy swirled into a miniature rasengan above the paper, its rotation pattern visible as glowing threads. Red ink symbols rose from the tag, merging with the chakra construct, altering its configuration subtly. Naruto frowned, noting the instability at the integration points. The seal matrix conflicts with the rotation at these junctions, he observed, making additional notes. Perhaps if I adjust the anchor points to flow with the spin rather than bisecting it. A twig snapped in the distance. Deliberate, a courtesy warning from someone skilled enough to approach undetected otherwise. Naruto didn't look up, recognizing the chakra signature instantly. Most people sleep at this hour, Kakashi remarked, materializing at the edge of the ceiling barrier. Most people aren't facing Niji Hyuga in 3 weeks, Naruto replied, continuing his notations. Kakashi studied the barrier seals with professional appreciation. May I? He asked, gesturing to the threshold. Naruto nodded, adjusting a single tag to allow the Jonin entry without disrupting the overall matrix. Kakashi stepped inside, crouching to examine the experimental seal with undisguised interest. Ambitious, he commented. Integrating sealing formulas into a dynamic chakra construct like the rasengan would be challenging even for a master. The principles are sound, Naruto defended. It's just a matter of matching frequencies and establishing stable anchor points within the rotation. Kakashi's non-committal hum neither agreed nor disagreed. And what would this theoretical seal-enhanced rasengan do, exactly? Naruto hesitated, weighing trust against caution. Targeted chakra disruption, he finally said. Against the Hyuga, conventional attacks are problematic because their gentle fist can close chakra points on contact. This would allow me to disrupt their chakra network without direct tenketsu strikes. Fighting a Hyuga at their own game, Kakashi mused. Risky, calculated risk, Naruto corrected. Niji's skilled, but he's also predictable in certain ways. His technique is refined but traditional. He won't expect this approach. Silence stretched between them, comfortable rather than tense, as Kakashi settled cross-legged across from his student. The barrier seals hummed softly in the night air, fireflies drifting beyond their perimeter like distant stars. Sasuke's struggling, Kakashi said finally. Not with training, but with everything that's happened. The curse mark, your revelation, the upcoming match with Gaara. It's a lot to process. Naruto set his brush down, giving his sensei his full attention. I know. I didn't plan for things to unfold this way, but Orochimaru forced my hand. No recriminations, Kakashi assured him. Just awareness. Your relationship with Sasuke has always been complicated. This shift in dynamics won't be easy for either of you. You think I don't know that? Naruto's voice held unexpected bitterness. I've spent years calibrating every interaction, balancing rivalry against friendship, challenge against support. All while pretending to be someone I'm not. The admission hung between them, raw and honest in a way their previous conversations hadn't been. It was necessary, Kakashi acknowledged quietly. But necessity and wisdom aren't always the same thing, Naruto. Secrets protect, but they also isolate. Something vulnerable flickered across Naruto's features before disappearing behind practiced composure. Isolation is familiar territory for a Jinchuriki. It doesn't have to be, Kakashi countered. Not anymore. Before Naruto could respond, a disturbance rippled through the perimeter seals. Not an intrusion, but a proximity alert. Both shinobi tensed, senses expanding to identify the approaching presence. Imbu, Naruto identified first. But not regular forces. The chakra signature is muted, Kakashi nodded grimly. Root. Danzo's private army. He rose fluidly to his feet. Time to relocate. With practiced efficiency, Naruto gathered his materials, the experimental seal carefully preserved between protective layers. The barrier tags disintegrated at a pulse of chakra, leaving no trace of their work. 2 operatives, northwest quadrant, maintaining distance but tracking, Naruto murmured, shouldering his pack. They've been following since I left Jiraiya this afternoon. Expected, Kakashi replied tersely. Danzo wouldn't overlook a potential asset, or threat, like you. He'll want his own assessment, independent of the Hokage's. Let him watch, Naruto said, a cold edge entering his voice. He'll see exactly what I choose to show. They departed in different directions, a prearranged strategy that would make tracking more difficult. As Naruto leapt through the darkened forest, he sensed one of the root operatives breaking off to follow him, while the other presumably shadowed Kakashi. So it begins, he thought grimly. The dance of shadows and whispers. The following days established a new rhythm. Mornings spent with Jiraiya on advanced chakra control and seal theory, afternoons dedicated to combat application and strategy. The sanin proved a demanding but insightful instructor, pushing Naruto's limits while carefully gauging the true extent of his abilities. Your theoretical knowledge outpaces your practical application, Jiraiya observed on their 5th day, watching Naruto attempt to stabilize a particularly complex barrier seal. Classic self-taught syndrome. You understand the why better than the how. Naruto wiped sweat from his brow, frustration evident in his tightened jaw. Kushina's notes explain the principles but not always the execution. Some techniques require guidance or demonstration, which is exactly why secrecy has handicapped you, Jiraiya pointed out, crouching to adjust Naruto's brush grip slightly. Try again, but feel the flow rather than forcing it. Sealing is conversation, not command. The subtle adjustment made all the difference. The characters flowed more naturally from the brush, chakra infusing them with harmonic resonance rather than rigid structure. The barriers shimmered into existence, translucent but stable. Better, Jiraiya approved. Much better. Naruto sat back, studying his work with critical eyes. It's still inefficient. The activation sequence requires too many steps for combat application. Then we simplify, Jiraiya countered, pulling out a blank scroll. Show me your current activation matrix. As they worked through modifications, Naruto gradually relaxed into a dynamic he never experienced before, collaborative innovation. The give and take of master and apprentice building on each other's insights. For all his flaws, Jiraiya's brilliance with seals was undeniable. His suggestions elegant solutions to problems Naruto had struggled with for months. You're enjoying this, Jiraiya observed during a brief break, something like wistful satisfaction in his voice. Naruto paused, water canteen halfway to his lips. Is that surprising? No, the sanin admitted. But it's good to see. Kushina was the same way. Happiest when she was elbow deep in a challenging seal problem. She'd get this little fro between her eyebrows when she was stuck, just like you do. The casual mention of his mother, delivered without the awkward solemnity most people adopted when referencing his parents, caught Naruto off guard. A complicated tangle of emotions tightened his chest. Tell me about her, he requested quietly. Not as a kunoichi or a jinchuriki. Just as her. Something softened in Jiraiya's weathered features. She was a force of nature, he began, settling more comfortably on the grass. Brilliant, hot-tempered, loyal to a fault. Had a laugh you could hear across the village and a right hook that could send a man through walls. Which I experienced firsthand on multiple occasions, usually deserved. A smile tugged at Naruto's lips despite himself. She loved ramen, the salt kind, specifically, and hated waiting for anything. Called people out on their nonsense without hesitation, didn't care if you were a genin or a kage. Jiraiya's gaze turned distant with memory. And she loved your father something fierce. Those two were opposites in many ways, her fire to his calm, her impulsiveness to his planning, but together they were whole. And me? Naruto couldn't stop the question. What did they want from me? Jiraiya's expression grew serious. Everything, kid. They wanted you to be loved, respected, safe. Minato believed you'd master the Ninetales' power someday, become stronger than either of them. Kushina worried more about your happiness than your achievements. His voice roughened. That last night, when they knew what was coming, they poured everything they had into the seals that would protect you, not just the 8 trigram seal, but layers of safeguards and contingencies most people don't even know exist. The revelation settled over Naruto like a physical weight. What kind of contingencies? That, Jiraiya said, rising to his feet, is a conversation for another day. Right now, we need to focus on your match with the Hyuga prodigy. The deflection was obvious, but Naruto let it pass, filing the information away for future investigation. They returned to training with renewed focus, the afternoon sun tracking across the sky as they refined techniques and tested applications. By sunset, Naruto had mastered the streamlined barrier seal and progressed to more offensive applications. Jiraiya observed with growing appreciation as his godson demonstrated a modified paralysis seal delivered via thrown kunai, a technique that immobilized the training dummy instantly upon impact. Not bad, the sanin acknowledged. Combat viable, though a skilled opponent might dodge the delivery method. That's why the real version is designed for area effect rather than direct impact, Naruto explained, retrieving the kunai. The seal activates on proximity rather than contact, creating a paralysis field approximately 3 meters in diameter. Jiraiya's eyebrows rose. Area effect sealing is Jonin-level work at minimum. The chakra requirements alone are substantial, Naruto agreed. But manageable with my reserves. Jiraiya studied him thoughtfully. Show me the experimental rasengan variant you've been working on. Kakashi mentioned it during his report to the Hokage. Naruto hesitated, surprised that Kakashi had shared that information. It's not stable yet. All the more reason for an expert opinion, Jiraiya countered. I did help Minato develop the original, you know. Decision made, Naruto created a shadow clone and began the process, chakra swirling between his palms into the familiar spherical formation. Unlike a standard rasengan, this version incorporated thin ribbons of sealing script that spiraled through the chakra matrix, creating a latticework of containment and redirection. Interesting approach, Jiraiya commented, circling to observe from different angles. You're using the rotational energy to power the seal rather than maintaining them separately. Exactly, Naruto confirmed, concentration evident in his focused gaze. The Rasengan spin provides both the delivery mechanism and the activation energy for the embedded seal formulas. The construct pulsed between stability and chaos, the integration point still problematic despite days of refinement. After 30 seconds of sustained effort, Naruto allowed it to dissipate, sweat beading on his forehead. The seal wants to establish fixed points while the Rasengan requires constant motion, he explained, frustration evident in his voice. I haven't solved the fundamental contradiction yet. Jiraiya's expression had shifted from curiosity to genuine respect. You're closer than you realize, he said. The issue isn't the contradiction, it's your conceptualization of sealing as static. Explain. Traditional sealing creates fixed matrices because they're inscribed on static surfaces, paper, skin, objects. But seals can be dynamic. Jiraiya picked up a leaf, channeling chakra to make it spin in his palm. Instead of fighting the rotation, design the seal to incorporate the movement itself. He drew characters on the spinning leaf with his fingertip, chakra infusing each symbol. Instead of remaining where placed, the characters flowed around the circumference, maintaining their integrity while in motion. Flowing seal theory, Naruto breathed, eyes widening with recognition. From the Uzumaki 7th Codex. You've read it? Jiraiya asked, surprised. Fragments, Naruto admitted. The relevant sections were damaged in my mother's copy. I understood the concept but not the practical application. A slow grin spread across Jiraiya's face. Well then, consider this your first lesson in advanced dynamic sealing. Watch closely. What followed was 3 hours of intense instruction, master to student, as Jiraiya demonstrated principles and techniques passed down through generations of seal masters. Naruto absorbed every detail with ravenous attention, each piece slotting into place within the framework of his existing knowledge. As midnight approached, they attempted the modified Rasengan again, this time with Naruto's seals restructured to flow with the rotation rather than fighting against it. The result glowed in Naruto's palm, not fully stable yet, but considerably closer than before. That's enough for today, Jiraiya declared, noting Naruto's deepening exhaustion. You've made remarkable progress. One more attempt, Naruto insisted, stubborn determination overriding fatigue. Kid, even your chakra reserves have limits. We'll continue tomorrow. I'm close, Naruto argued, hands already forming the necessary signs. I can feel it. Jiraiya sighed, recognizing the futility of argument. Fine. One more. Then you rest, or I'm telling Ichiraku to cut you off for a week. The threat of ramen deprivation drew a reluctant smile from Naruto as he created another shadow clone. This time, he closed his eyes, focusing on sensation rather than visual feedback as the Rasengan formed between his palms. Flow, don't force, he reminded himself, feeling the chakra patterns establish their rotation. The sealing formulas followed, not as rigid structures but as currents within the swirling energy, their patterns maintained by the very motion that had previously disrupted them. When he opened his eyes, a perfect seal-enhanced Rasengan hummed between his hands, the standard blue sphere now interwoven with glowing characters that rotated in harmonious counterpoint to the main chakra flow. I'll be damned, Jiraiya whispered, genuine awe in his voice. You actually did it. Naruto stared at his creation, the culmination of weeks of theory and experimentation made manifest. Sealing art, disruption sphere, he named it quietly. Appropriate, Jiraiya nodded. What's the effect radius? Targeted, Naruto replied, maintaining the construct with growing confidence. The seals are designed to disrupt the target's chakra network specifically, temporarily disabling their ability to mold chakra without causing permanent damage. Perfect counter to a Hyuga, Jiraiya observed. No Tenketsu strikes needed when you can shut down their entire system at once. Naruto allowed the technique to dissipate, the achievement tempered by practical considerations. It requires direct contact and perfect execution. Against Niji's defense and perception, landing the hit won't be easy. That, Jiraiya said with a grin, is what the next 2 weeks of training are for. He clapped a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Well done, kid. Your parents would be proud. The simple statement, delivered without artifice or calculation, struck deeper than any elaborate praise could have. Naruto nodded once, unable to voice the complex emotions rising in his chest. As they gathered their equipment and prepared to depart, Naruto sensed the now familiar chakra signatures of their root shadows, maintaining discreet distance but ever present. Our friends are still watching, he noted quietly. Let them, Jiraiya replied with casual confidence. They've just witnessed the birth of a technique that combines the legacy of the fourth Hokage with uzumaki sealing traditions. By morning, Danzo will know exactly what that implies. And is that a good thing? Naruto asked, genuine uncertainty in his voice. Jiraiya's expression turned calculating. Information is currency in our world, kid. Sometimes the most powerful move is letting your opponent see exactly how dangerous you can be. As they walked back toward the village under a canopy of stars, Naruto considered the days ahead, the continued training, the looming tournament, the shifting political landscape as knowledge of his abilities spread beyond Konoha's borders. The shadows and whispers would only intensify, forces moving into position around the piece he represented on the greater board. But for the first time since emerging from hiding, he felt a cautious optimism. In Jiraiya, he'd found not just a teacher but a connection to his parents, flawed and complicated, but genuine. In the seal-enhanced Rasengan, he'd created something uniquely his own, a bridge between his father's legacy and his mother's heritage. The mask had fallen, and though challenges lay ahead, Naruto Uzumaki faced them not in shadow, but in his own light. Dawn broke over Konoha like liquid gold pouring through a cracked horizon. Naruto stood before his apartment window, watching as the village stirred to life beneath him. Shopkeepers raising shutters, shinobi making early morning patrols, civilians emerging with anticipation evident in their quickened steps. Tournament day had arrived. He turned to the outfit laid carefully across his bed, not the familiar orange jumpsuit that had been both disguise and armor for so many years, but something new. Navy blue pants, reinforced at the knees and calves with subtle padding. A black mesh undershirt beneath a deep blue jacket with burnt orange accents along the seams and collar. Combat boots instead of sandals, their soles modified with silencing seals of his own design. And finally, a new forehead protector, the cloth longer, its deep black fabric a statement in itself. Appropriate, he murmured, running fingers across the fabric. The outfit had been Jiraiya's suggestion, a physical manifestation of shedding old identities. Time to stop hiding in plain sight. As he dressed, Naruto mentally reviewed the month's intensive training. The seal-enhanced Rasengan, now stabilized and combat-ready after countless revisions. The barrier techniques refined for split-second deployment. The chakra control exercises that had pushed even his monstrous reserves to their limits. His reflection caught him by surprise. The stranger in the mirror more composed, more focused than the face he'd presented to the world for years. No exaggerated expressions or forced grins, just steady determination in eyes that had seen too much too young. A soft knock at his door broke the moment of contemplation. "It's open," he called, securing his weapons pouch with practiced efficiency. Sakura stepped inside, her own tournament day outfit a more practical version of her usual attire. She paused, taking in Naruto's transformed appearance with widened eyes. "You look," she hesitated, searching for the right word, "different." Naruto's lips quirked in a small smile, genuine, not the fox-like grin of his facade. "Good different?" "Just different," she reiterated, though her tone carried approval. "More like yourself, I guess." The simple observation struck deeper than expected. "Yeah," he agreed quietly. "That's the idea." Sakura moved further into the apartment, her gaze catching on the scrolls and books stacked neatly by his bedside, advanced chakra theory, historical accounts of the Uzumaki clan, and tactical analyses that would have shocked their academy instructors. "Sasuke's meeting us at the stadium," she said, fingers tracing the spine of a particularly ancient tome. Kakashi-sensei said his final preparations took longer than expected. "The curse mark?" Naruto asked, concern evident beneath his composed exterior. "Stable, apparently," Sakura replied. "But Kakashi-sensei insists on monitoring it until the last possible moment." Naruto nodded, mentally adjusting timelines based on this information. If Kakashi was taking extra precautions with Sasuke's seal, perhaps their Jonin-sensei had sensed the same unsettling currents that had been prickling at Naruto's awareness for days. The subtle indicators of something brewing beneath Konoha's festive surface. "We should go," he said, retrieving a final scroll from his desk and slipping it into an inner pocket. "The procession will be starting soon." They stepped out into streets already thronging with villagers and visitors alike, all moving toward the massive arena at the village's eastern edge. Flags and banners snapped in the morning breeze, vendors hawked commemorative items and refreshments, and the electric buzz of anticipation saturated the air. What struck Naruto most, however, was the change in how people reacted to his presence. Gone were the cold shoulders and dismissive glances that had followed him throughout childhood. Instead, villagers watched him pass with curious intensity, conversations hushing momentarily before erupting into speculative whispers in his wake. "They're afraid of you now," Sakura observed quietly as they navigated the crowd. "Or at least unsure." "Better than hatred," Naruto replied, though the words carried no satisfaction. "Fear can become respect, given time and demonstration." Sakura studied him with renewed consideration. You've thought about this. All of it. The revelation, the timing, the aftermath. For years, he admitted. Though Orochimaru's appearance accelerated certain aspects of the plan, the casual confirmation that his actions had been calculated rather than impulsive clearly unsettled her. Before she could pursue this line of questioning, they rounded a corner and the tournament arena rose before them, a massive structure of stone and steel, festooned with decorative banners and ceremonial flags representing each participating village. The approach to the competitors' entrance had been cordoned off, creating a processional path lined with spectators eager for glimpses of the finalists. As Naruto and Sakura reached this gauntlet, a ripple of recognition passed through the crowd. There he is, the Uzumaki boy, defeated the Inuzuka without breaking a sweat. They say he used the force techniques. Naruto walked the path with measured confidence, neither acknowledging the whispers nor shrinking from the scrutiny. Sakura fell half a step behind, her presence supportive but allowing him the spotlight this moment demanded. At the entrance, participants were being directed through security checks administered by masked ANBU. Shikamaru stood just inside, his perpetual slouch belying the sharp assessment in his eyes as Naruto approached. Troublesome outfit change, he drawled by way of greeting. Making a statement? Everything makes a statement, Shikamaru, Naruto replied, lips quirking. Even pretending not to care, the Nara genius snorted, a reluctant smile tugging at his mouth. Fair enough. They're gathering us in the preparation area before the official procession. The three made their way through torchlit corridors that plunged beneath the stadium, the roar of the assembling crowd above growing more distinct with each passing minute. The preparation chamber opened before them, a large circular room where the other finalists had already gathered. Gaara stood alone in one corner, arms crossed, pale eyes immediately locking onto Naruto with unnerving intensity. The sand in his gorge shifted audibly, responding to some emotional current only the Jinchuriki could feel. His siblings maintained a careful distance, Temari's fan half unfolded in preparation for any sudden outburst. Niji Hyuga occupied the opposite wall, his posture a study in aristocratic disdain. His pale eyes tracked Naruto's entrance, narrowing fractionally at the transformed appearance of his upcoming opponent. Shino Abirame nodded silent acknowledgement from beside a pacing Kankuro, while Dosa from Sound watched proceedings with calculated interest from the shadows. Quite the gathering of talent, remarked a new voice as Ganma Shirani, the replacement proctor for the indisposed Hate, entered the chamber. The senbon in his mouth shifted as he addressed the finalists. The stadium is at capacity, dignitaries are taking their seats, and you're about to face the largest audience of your young careers. Any questions before we begin? Silence greeted his inquiry, each competitor wrapped in their own final preparations and assessments. Right, Ganma continued. The tournament rules remain as explained previously. Victory is achieved by surrender, incapacitation, or death, though the last is discouraged for diplomatic reasons. His gaze swept the assembly. I have authority to intervene if a match becomes excessively one-sided or if continued combat would endanger lives unnecessarily. He consulted a timepiece. The ceremonial procession begins in 10 minutes. I suggest any last-minute preparations be completed now. As the proctor withdrew, conversations resumed in hushed tones. Sakura squeezed Naruto's arm once before seeking out medical staff to inquire about Sasuke's status, leaving him momentarily alone amid the charged atmosphere. Your chakra has changed. The observation, delivered in Gaara's rasping monotone, silenced other conversations as the Sand Jinchuriki pushed away from his corner and took 2 deliberate steps toward Naruto. It's more controlled now, Gaara continued, head tilting slightly as if listening to something only he could hear. Mother finds it disturbing. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Perhaps Mother should consider whether her desires align with your own best interests, Gaara. The redhead's eyes widened fractionally, the only visible reaction to words that struck deeper than anyone present could understand. Temari moved forward quickly, alarm evident in her tense posture. Gaara, we should conserve energy before your match, she suggested, careful to maintain a respectful distance despite her intervention. For a moment, sand hissed from the gourd's opening, coiling in agitated patterns around Gaara's feet. Then, surprising everyone, he stepped back with a curt nod. We will have our conversation later, Uzumaki, he stated, the words carrying weight beyond their simple meaning. Looking forward to it, Naruto replied evenly. The tension dissipated as a Chunin messenger arrived, signaling the procession's imminent beginning. Competitors lined up according to their bracket positions, Naruto and Niji at the front as the first scheduled match. Your change in appearance won't alter the outcome, Niji remarked coldly as they waited at the tunnel entrance. Fate has already determined our paths. Naruto glanced sideways, studying the Hyuga prodigy with genuine curiosity rather than antagonism. You really believe that, don't you? That our lives follow predetermined courses we can't alter? I don't merely believe it, Niji replied, pale eyes forward. I've seen it, proven through observation and experience. The strong remain strong, the weak remain weak. All else is illusion. Interesting perspective from someone born into the branch house, Naruto observed quietly. Niji's posture stiffened imperceptibly, the only indication that the barb had landed. Before he could respond, trumpets blared above, and the procession began. Sunlight blasted into the darkened tunnel as they emerged into the arena proper. The roar that greeted them physically vibrated the air, thousands of spectators rising to their feet as the finalists entered in ceremonial formation. Naruto blinked against the sudden brightness, senses automatically cataloging details despite the overwhelming input. The arena floor, freshly prepared earth with strategic outcroppings of rock and a small copse of trees at the far end. The spectator stands, packed to capacity, dignitaries from multiple nations occupying special boxes with enhanced visibility. The Hokage's viewing platform, positioned for optimal oversight of proceedings, ANBU guards visible and undoubtedly many more concealed. And there, the cause of Naruto's subtly heightened alertness. The Kazekage had arrived, seated beside the third Hokage in a position of diplomatic honor. Even at this distance, even with the ceremonial veil obscuring his features, something about the Sand leader's posture sent warning signals cascading through Naruto's awareness. Wrong, his instincts screamed. Predator. The finalists took their positions in the arena's center as the ceremonial address began. The third Hokage stood, his aged voice strengthened by jutsu to carry across the massive space. Distinguished guests, honored shinobi, citizens of Konoha and our esteemed allies, he began, the formal cadence masking the sharp intelligence that had guided the village through decades of peace and conflict. Today we witness the culmination of the Chunin selection exams, a demonstration of skill, strategy, and spirit that represents the finest qualities of the next generation. As the address continued, Naruto maintained the appearance of respectful attention, while his senses remained fixed on the veiled Kazekage. The chakra emanating from the figure was too controlled, too contained for casual ceremonial attendance. Every instinct honed through years of survival screamed deception. Orochimaru, he concluded, certainty crystallizing from suspicion. He's infiltrated the highest level of the proceedings. The realization shifted Naruto's mental calculations dramatically. If Orochimaru had replaced the Kazekage, likely after eliminating the actual leader, then the invasion plans were more advanced than even Jiraiya's intelligence network had suggested. The sanin wouldn't risk such exposure without certainty of success. And now, let the final tournament begin. The Hokage concluded, triggering another thunderous roar from the crowd. Genma stepped forward as the other competitors retreated to the waiting area. The first match, Naruto Uzumaki vs Niji Hyuga. Competitors, take your positions. As they moved to opposite sides of the arena, Naruto cataloged the notable observers with peripheral awareness. Hayashi Hyuga sat rigidly in the clan's section, his posture betraying nothing of his thoughts as he prepared to watch his nephew battle the village pariah. Nearby, Hinata occupied a seat despite her injuries, determination evident in her pale features. Jiraiya had positioned himself strategically against the arena wall, appearing casual but undoubtedly alert to the same undercurrents Naruto had sensed. Various Jonin sensei had scattered throughout the stands, maintaining appearance of normal attendance while ensuring coverage of key areas. Combatants ready? Genma asked, Saban shifting to the corner of his mouth as he raised his hand. Niji settled into the traditional gentle fist opening stance, Byakugan activating with chakra-laced veins extending from his eyes. I'll make this quick, he promised coldly. Naruto adopted no formal stance, his posture relaxed but alert, hands loose at his sides. I'm curious, he remarked conversationally. Has your Byakugan ever shown you the entirety of a person, Niji? Or just the pathways through which their energy flows? Confusion flickered across the Hyuga's face before his mask of confidence returned. Your attempts at psychological distraction are wasted. Not distraction, Naruto clarified. Genuine curiosity. Begin. Genma's hand slashed downward as he leapt clear of the battlefield. Niji surged forward immediately, hands glowing with chakra as he launched into the traditional Hyuga opening sequence. A combination of strikes designed to close Tenketsu points and disrupt an opponent's chakra flow from the outset. Instead of retreating or attempting to counter, Naruto simply wasn't there. He had shifted position with such fluid speed that for a moment Niji's Byakugan tracked nothing but after-image chakra trails. A collective gasp rippled through the stadium. In the Hyuga section, Hayashi leaned forward marginally, the only indication of his surprise. Niji recovered instantly, spinning to locate his opponent now standing 10 paces to the right, expression unchanged. Impressive speed, the Hyuga acknowledged. But futile. My eyes see all. You cannot hide from the Byakugan. I'm not hiding, Naruto replied calmly. I'm observing. Your opening sequence targets the standard chakra network configuration with emphasis on upper body pathways. Efficient against most opponents, but predictable. The clinical assessment, delivered without boasting or aggression, visibly unsettled Niji more than any taunt could have. In the stands, murmurs of surprise rippled through the shinobi sections as experts recognized the tactical analysis for what it was. Niji's eyes narrowed. Analysis won't save you from this. He launched forward again, this time with increased speed, his gentle fist strikes flowing in the precise patterns that had devastated opponents throughout the preliminaries. What followed shocked even the veteran Jonin observing the match. Rather than avoiding the gentle fist entirely, Naruto moved through Niji's attack pattern, his body twisting between strikes with millimeter precision, occasionally deflecting a palm with subtle redirections that prevented chakra transfer. Impossible, Hayashi breathed, Byakugan active as he observed the exchange. He's reading the gentle fist patterns and finding the gaps. In the competitor's box, Shikamaru leaned forward, eyes narrowed in analysis. He's countering the gentle fist without blocking or fully evading, he explained to a stunned Sakura. Minimum movement, maximum efficiency, the exact opposite of how most people fight Hyuga. Below, Niji disengaged, breathing slightly elevated as he reassessed his opponent. Not a single strike had landed cleanly, despite executing flawless technique. You've studied the gentle fist, he accused, circling cautiously. I've studied many things, Naruto confirmed. Including the blind spot in the Byakugan's vision, approximately 15 degrees from the first thoracic vertebra. Shock registered plainly on Niji's face. A clan secret few outside the Hyuga knew, and certainly not expected from the supposed dead last of the academy. How did you? The real question, Naruto interrupted gently, is whether your dependence on the Byakugan's advantages has left you vulnerable to opponents who understand its limitations. The taunt, delivered as calm assessment rather than mockery, achieved its purpose. Niji's composure cracked, his next attack fueled by genuine anger rather than tactical consideration. He launched into the 8 trigrams 64 palms, the advanced technique beginning with precision despite his emotional state. 2 palms, Niji called, strikes blurring with speed. Naruto shifted just enough for the strikes to miss vital tenketsu points, accepting glancing contact that would reduce chakra flow without shutting it down completely. 4 palms. The attacks accelerated, Niji's confidence returning as he believed his technique was landing. 8 palms. Each successive wave increased in speed and intensity, the arena silent as spectators held collective breath. 16 palms. In the Hokage's box, the disguised Orochimaru leaned forward fractionally, golden eyes gleaming behind his ceremonial veil as he observed Naruto's calculated performance. 32 palms. In the stands, Hayashi's Byakugan revealed what others couldn't see, that most strikes were impacting non-critical pathways, guided there by Naruto's subtle adjustments. 64 palms. Niji concluded the sequence with a flourish, certainty of victory evident in his triumphant posture as he stepped back to observe his handiwork. Naruto stood seemingly immobilized, arms hanging loosely at his sides, breathing labored. For a moment, it appeared the Hyuga prodigy had succeeded where so many had failed. As I said, Niji declared, deactivating his Byakugan to conserve chakra. Fate cannot be defied. Your chakra network is disabled, your tenketsu closed. This match is over. Genma stepped forward, prepared to call the match, when Naruto's voice stopped him. Interesting theory, he said, straightening with no sign of impairment. But incomplete. With deliberate slowness, Naruto raised his hand, chakra visibly flowing through pathways that should have been sealed. Blue energy spiraled around his palm, forming complex patterns that drew gasps of recognition from those versed in sealing arts. What you failed to account for, Naruto continued conversationally, is that chakra networks can be modified through dedicated training and application of certain techniques. My pathways aren't standard, Niji. They haven't been since I was 8 years old. In the Jonin section, Kurenai turned to Asuma with widened eyes. Is that possible? Not for ordinary shinobi, the bearded Jonin replied, cigarette forgotten between his fingers. But for a Jinchuriki with uzumaki heritage? Maybe. Niji reactivated his Byakugan, disbelief evident as he observed Naruto's chakra network reconfiguring before his eyes, secondary pathways expanding to replace blocked primaries, reserves flowing through patterns that no textbook had ever documented. Your clan techniques are formidable, Naruto acknowledged, but they're designed for standard human anatomy. I'm something different. Without hand signs, Naruto created 4 shadow clones that surrounded Niji in diamond formation. The Hyuga dropped immediately into the rotation stance, prepared for physical assault. Instead, each clone simply placed one hand on the ground, channeling chakra into the earth. sealing formulas spread outward from their palms, connecting in a perfect square around Niji's position. 4 pillars binding seal, Naruto stated calmly. The ground beneath Niji glowed with activation as the seal matrix completed. Instantly, chakra columns erupted from each corner, connecting in a pyramidal barrier that contained the Hyuga prodigy. More critically, the seal's effect neutralized chakra expulsion, rendering the rotation technique impossible. In the Hyuga section, elders murmured in alarmed consultation, recognizing a direct counter to their clan's ultimate defense. Hayashi himself had gone completely still, Byakugan analyzing the seal structure with intense focus. Inside the barrier, Niji attempted the rotation anyway, spinning with practiced precision only to find his chakra containment disrupted by the seal's properties. His rotation faltered and failed, leaving him exposed as Naruto dispelled his clones and approached the barrier alone. The Hyuga clan's techniques are indeed formidable, Naruto acknowledged, genuine respect in his voice. But they rely on certain fundamental assumptions about chakra behavior that can be countered through specialized sealing methods. He placed a palm against the barrier, modifying its structure with a pulse of chakra. The pyramid collapsed inward, contracting around Niji without harming him, but rendering him completely immobilized from the neck down. This match demonstrates an important lesson, Niji, Naruto continued, meeting the Hyuga's furious gaze. Fate isn't fixed, it's determined by knowledge, preparation, and willingness to transcend established limitations. A profound silence had fallen over the arena as spectators processed what they were witnessing. Not just victory, but complete tactical deconstruction of one of Konoha's most prestigious clan techniques by someone they'd dismissed as talentless. Do you yield? Genma asked, addressing the immobilized Hyuga. Pride warred visibly with practicality in Niji's expression before reality asserted itself. I yield, he managed, the words clearly costing him. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki, Genma announced, triggering a delayed reaction from the crowd, stunned silence giving way to thunderous applause and exclamations. Naruto released the binding seal with a casual gesture, offering a hand to Niji as the last energy patterns dissipated. Your technique is excellent, he said quietly, for the Hyuga's ears alone. But your perspective is limited by resentment. There are ways to transcend the caged bird seal, Niji. Perhaps we can discuss them sometime. Shock registered plainly in the Hyuga's pale eyes as the implications sank in. Before he could respond, Medical Ninja approached to check both competitors for injuries, and the moment passed. As Naruto walked toward the exit tunnel, the crowd's reaction washed over him in waves. Applause mixed with exclamations of disbelief and hurried analyses from Shinobi attempting to contextualize what they'd witnessed. He maintained his composed demeanor, neither acknowledging the adulation nor shrinking from the scrutiny. In the competitor's box, Shikamaru shook his head slowly. Troublesome, he muttered. Absolutely troublesome. What just happened? Sakura demanded, still processing the methodical dismantling of a technique she believed nearly invincible. A chess master finally stopped pretending to play checkers, Shikamaru replied cryptically. And the whole board just changed. In the Hokage's viewing box, the disguised Orochimaru leaned toward Hiruzen, voice pitched for privacy despite the surrounding guards. Most impressive, Lord Hokage, he remarked silkily. The Uzumaki boy shows remarkable development since his academy days. The third maintained diplomatic neutrality, though his eyes never left Naruto's retreating form. Indeed, Lord Kazekage. It seems he had hidden depths few suspected. Hidden depths indeed, the false Kazekage agreed, golden eyes gleaming behind his veil. One wonders what other surprises await us today. In the tunnel, Naruto was met by Jiraiya, who had positioned himself away from public view. The sanin's expression was both proud and concerned. Beautiful execution, he commented, falling into step beside his godson. Though perhaps a bit more revealing than necessary. Calculated risk, Naruto replied quietly. The invasion is coming. Better to show enough capability that our enemies might hesitate or reconsider their timing. Jiraiya's eyebrow rose. You're certain? The Kazekage is Orochimaru, Naruto confirmed, voice barely audible. His chakra signature is masked, but the killing intent leaks through at the edges. He's practically vibrating with anticipation. To his credit, Jiraiya's stride didn't falter, though his expression darkened momentarily. The old man suspects as much, but confirmation is valuable. I'll ensure word reaches the response teams. They reached the competitors' waiting area just as the announcement for the second match echoed through the stadium. Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara of the Desert. A murmur rippled through the crowd, anticipation mixed with confusion, as Sasuke had yet to appear in the arena. Your teammate cutting it close, Jiraiya observed. Kakashi's influence, Naruto replied, though concern sharpened his gaze as he scanned the entries for any sign of the Uchiha. The proctor conferred with messengers, clearly receiving updates about Sasuke's status. After a brief consultation, Genma addressed the increasingly restless audience. Due to extenuating circumstances, the match between Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara will be postponed until later in the tournament. We will proceed with the third match, Kankuro vs Shino Aburame. Another ripple of disappointment passed through the crowd, though it was quickly replaced by renewed interest as the next competitors prepared to enter. Tournament rules are being bent, Jiraiya noted. Special treatment for the Uchiha. Political considerations, Naruto countered. The daimyo and many dignitaries came specifically to see the last Uchiha compete. Disqualifying him would create diplomatic awkwardness the village can't afford right now. His attention shifted to where Gaara waited, sand swirling agitatedly around his feet. The redhead's expression had darkened at the announcement of delay, his control visibly fraying at the edges. Gaara's unstable, Naruto murmured. The delay risks triggering him prematurely. As if confirming his assessment, Kankuro approached the proctor and, after a brief exchange, raised his hand. "I forfeit my match," he announced, prompting surprised exclamations from the crowd. In the stands, sharp-eyed Jonin noted the brief glance Kankuro directed toward the Kazekage's box before his forfeit. A silent request for permission that passed most observers. Sand Shinobi conserving strength, one Chunin speculated loudly. Tactical withdrawal to maintain combat readiness, another agreed. Naruto knew better. The invasion timeline was accelerating, pieces moving into position ahead of schedule. Kankuro's withdrawal wasn't strategy. It was preparation. Genma, recovering quickly from the unexpected forfeit, announced the advancement of Shino by default and called for the next match, Temari vs Shikamaru Nara. As the sand kunoichi floated down to the arena floor on her fan, Shikamaru hesitated in the competitor's box, muttering about troublesome women and excessive effort. "You should go," Sakura encouraged, having joined them after Naruto's match. "This is your chance to show what you can do." "What a drag," Shikamaru sighed, but moved toward the stairs with resigned acceptance. Naruto's attention, however, had shifted back to the entryway. A familiar chakra signature approached, too, actually, moving at high speed toward the arena. Finally, he murmured as a swirl of leaves materialized in the center of the battlefield, revealing Kakashi and Sasuke standing back-to-back in synchronized dramatic pose. "Sorry we're late," Kakashi offered with characteristic eye smile. "We got lost on the road of life." The crowd erupted in cheers at Sasuke's arrival, momentary annoyance forgotten in the excitement of seeing the last Uchiha prepared for combat. Sasuke himself had undergone a transformation nearly as dramatic as Naruto's, his outfit replaced with darker, more practical attire, his posture conveying controlled confidence rather than brooding intensity. Most significantly, his chakra signature had changed. Naruto could sense the containment seal Kakashi had placed over Orochimaru's curse mark, a complex matrix of suppression and redirection that would prevent uncontrolled activation during combat. As Genma conferred with Kakashi about rescheduling the delayed match, Sasuke's gaze swept the competitor's box, locking briefly with Naruto's. Something passed between them, acknowledgement, perhaps, or challenge, before Sasuke turned his attention to Gaara, who had risen to his feet at the Uchiha's arrival. "The sand is practically humming with anticipation," Jiraiya observed. "Your friend has his work cut out for him." "He's not facing just Gaara," Naruto replied softly. "He's facing Shikaku, one of the most unstable tailed beasts, contained by a deliberately flawed seal." In the stands, the disguised Orochimaru leaned forward fractionally, his interest palpable even behind the ceremonial veil. The third Hokage's attention had similarly sharpened, his aged eyes missing nothing of the unfolding dynamics. After careful consideration, Genma announced, "We will proceed with the originally scheduled match between Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara of the Desert immediately. Competitors, take your positions." As Sasuke moved to one side of the arena and Gaara materialized in a swirl of sand on the other, Naruto felt something shift in the atmosphere, a subtle tension that raised the hairs on the back of his neck. In the competitors' box, Temari and Kankuro exchanged meaningful glances, their hands drifting closer to their weapons. Throughout the stadium, Naruto noted sand and sound shinobi shifting positions under the guise of finding better viewing angles. ANBU guards had similarly adjusted, their seemingly casual relocations placing them near strategic entry points and vulnerable sectors. "It's starting," he murmured to Jiraiya. "They're moving into position." The Sannin nodded almost imperceptibly. "Response teams are ready." The old man gave the signal when you confirmed Orochimaru's presence. Below, Genma raised his hand between the competitors, the crowd falling silent in anticipation of the most eagerly awaited match of the tournament. "Begin!" he called, leaping clear as sand erupted from Gaara's gourd. Sasuke immediately put distance between them, testing Gaara's defenses with shuriken that the sand intercepted automatically. The Uchiha's Sharingan activated, analyzing the patterns of the defensive system while looking for weaknesses. As the match progressed, Naruto divided his attention between the battle and the increasingly obvious positioning of invasion forces throughout the stadium. In the Hokage's box, the disguised Orochimaru was practically vibrating with anticipation, his focus fixed on Sasuke's movements with predatory intensity. "We should move closer to the Hokage's position," Naruto suggested quietly. "When it breaks, that's where Orochimaru will make his play." "Already planned," Jiraiya confirmed. "Signals coming from the old man any minute now. Your job is to track Gaara when things go sideways. That unstable seal makes him the most volatile piece on the board." Below, the match had intensified. Sasuke's speed had increased dramatically during the month of training, his movements now approaching the same velocity Naruto had demonstrated against Niji. The improvement clearly caught Gaara off guard, his sand struggling to maintain its defensive perimeter against attacks coming from multiple angles at blurring speed. For the first time in the tournament, Gaara appeared genuinely threatened. A scratch appeared on his cheek as Sasuke broke through the sand shield momentarily. A minor wound that nonetheless triggered disproportionate shock from the redhead. "Blood," Gaara whispered, fingers touching the injury with disbelief. "My blood," the disturbing fascination in his voice carried across the suddenly hushed arena. Even Sasuke paused, recognizing the psychological shift in his opponent. In the competitor's box, Temari took an involuntary step backward. "This is bad," she murmured. "If Gaara loses control now." The sand around Gaara began swirling with increasing violence, responding to emotional turmoil rather than tactical need. Sasuke, recognizing the escalation, leapt to the arena wall and began forming hand signs for what appeared to be his ultimate technique, chakra visibly collecting in his palm, chirping sounds increasing in volume as lightning nature energy coalesced. "Chidori," Kakashi confirmed from nearby, having joined them in the competitor's box. "My contribution to his training." The assassination technique, designed for single, lethal strikes, glowed with blinding intensity as Sasuke launched himself toward Gaara, who had encased himself in a protective sphere of hardened sand. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. As Sasuke's lightning-wreathed hand pierced Gaara's ultimate defense, an inhuman scream erupted from within the sand cocoon. Simultaneously, white feathers began drifting through the stadium air, a wide-area genjutsu designed to subdue civilians and unprepared shinobi. "Now!" a voice commanded from the Hokage's box, as the disguised Orochimaru revealed himself, grabbing the third and leaping to the stadium roof where a barrier technique was already being erected by 4 sound ninja. Throughout the stands, sand and sound shinobi discarded their disguises, launching synchronized attacks against konoha defenders who had been forewarned and prepared. Civilians slumped unconscious under the genjutsu's influence while battles erupted across the stadium. In the arena, Gaara's sand sphere cracked open to reveal the Jinchuriki clutching a bleeding shoulder, his expression contorted with pain and rage. Temari and Kankuro leapt down immediately, flanking their brother as a massive explosion reverberated from the village's eastern wall, the signal for larger forces to begin their assault. "Get Gaara out of here!" Baki ordered, appearing beside his students. "The plan has changed. Retreat and regroup." Sasuke, momentarily confused by the chaos erupting around him, recovered quickly and moved to pursue as the Sand siblings fled with their injured brother. Before he could follow, Genma intercepted him. "Uchiha! The village is under attack. Your orders are to remain with your team and defend the civilian sectors." "But Gaara," Sasuke protested, Sharingan tracking the retreating figures. "Will be handled," Kakashi interrupted, appearing beside his student in a swirl of leaves. "Village defense takes priority." In the competitor's box, Naruto watched the fleeing Sand siblings with calculated intensity. "They're heading east, toward the forest boundary," he observed, "attempting extraction while our forces are divided between village defense and counterattack." "Logical," Jiraiya agreed, already forming hand signs to summon one of his larger toads to combat a massive snake that had breached the eastern wall. "But they didn't account for you." Naruto nodded once, decision made. "I'll intercept Gaara. His seal is destabilizing. If Shikaku breaks free inside the village perimeter, civilian casualties will be catastrophic." Sakura appeared beside them, having dispelled the genjutsu easily. "I'm coming with you," she stated, no room for argument in her tone. "As am I," Sasuke added, having disengaged from Kakashi and rejoined them. "I started that fight. I'll finish it." Naruto assessed his teammates briefly, Sakura's determined expression, Sasuke's activated Sharingan still blazing with battle readiness, and nodded once. "Team mission then." intercept and contain a destabilizing ginuriki while minimizing collateral damage. As chaos consumed the stadium and battle spread throughout the village, Team 7 moved with synchronized purpose toward the eastern exit. The invasion had begun, but not as planned. Orochimaru's forces faced a konoha prepared and waiting, forewarned by intelligence that had flowed from a most unexpected source. The mask had fallen, and with it, the element of surprise that might have tipped the scales in the invaders' favor. As Naruto led his team in pursuit of Gaara, he felt a grim satisfaction beneath his battle focus. The shadows and whispers had served their purpose. Now was the time for action in the daylight, for power no longer hidden but unleashed in defense of what mattered. Tournament day had dawned with anticipation of competition, but would set with the fires of invasion, and the revelation of what Naruto Uzumaki was truly capable of when fighting without restraint.